Volume 2, Chapter 562, The Jedi's Test, Part 2. No sooner had they taken a few steps forward than one of the soldiers from the Fourth Legion felt a subtle click beneath his foot. He halted and announced in a grave tone, "Captain, I believe I've stepped on something." Darth Marthael, who had just dismissed the possibility of the Jedi Knight setting traps, felt his face flush with embarrassment as he turned to investigate. But before he could fully turn around, the ground beneath them trembled violently, accompanied by a deep rumbling sound. It was as if a sudden downpour of gravel was unleashed, showering them from above. "Look, a statue!" one of the soldiers exclaimed in alarm. Darth Marthael's gaze shot upwards, only to see the massive statue of Lucian Dre beginning to move, with gravel cascading from its joints. To their dismay, the path ahead was swiftly barricaded by falling boulders. "It's a giant robot!" Turulan exclaimed, analyzing the scan results on his universal tool. "Lord Governor, your foresight is commendable. The Jedi Knights indeed intend to use this formidable method to repel the invasion." Darth Marthael sighed, feeling a mix of embarrassment and irony. This was not the outcome he had anticipated. "Fire! Destroy it!" he commanded. The soldiers of the Fourth Legion promptly aimed their weapons at the target. They wielded the M22 Ripper shotguns, unleashing their formidable firepower in the confined space. The barrage of jagged shrapnel battered the giant robot, chipping away at its stone exterior to reveal the underlying gray-black and rusted armor. Despite the onslaught, the robot, towering at 20 meters, remained unshaken. Its armor was marred with dents, but it sustained no significant damage. With a thunderous step, the robot advanced, its massive foot descending upon the soldier who had triggered the trap. The soldier had chosen to remain stationary, uncertain of the potential consequences of moving away from the trap. He believed it was his responsibility to face the outcome of his actions. However, in a surprising turn of events, a powerful force shoved him aside just as the robot's foot crashed down, obliterating the ground and the mechanism beneath. The soldier looked up at Darth Marthael, saluted in gratitude, and then rejoined the fray. "Spread out, pair up, fire in volleys to distract the robot," Justin Reeves commanded with precision. The soldiers split into pairs, alternating their attacks to confuse the robot's targeting system. Fortunately, the robot lacked long-range capabilities, relying solely on its immense physical strength to punch and kick. The soldiers, with their exceptional agility, dodged the attacks, avoiding any casualties. Justin Reeves dashed forward, then executed a swift kick against the wall, pivoting away just as the robot's fist slammed into his previous position. With his M22 Ripper shotgun aimed at the robot's arm joints, he fired several rounds. Simultaneously, he retrieved a grenade from his belt, setting it to detonate in 3 seconds. Timing his throw perfectly, he lobbed the grenade beneath the robot's foot just as it stepped down. The explosion rocked the base of the robot, causing it to stagger momentarily before regaining its balance, still remarkably undamaged. "What is this robot made of? How can it withstand so much?" Turulan cursed in frustration. Darth Marthael observed from a distance, opting not to engage directly. He had previously attempted to damage the robot with his lightsaber, only to find that even the lightsaber couldn't penetrate its armor. It was evident that this robot was specifically designed to counter those sensitive to the Force. If that was the case, he pondered, what would the Jedi's next move be? Darth Marthael furrowed his brow in deep contemplation, extending his senses into the Force once more to seek its guidance. To his astonishment, he detected the presence of the original Force coursing through the robot's internal mechanisms. The realization struck him like a bolt of lightning. The robot was power, led by the Force itself. This revelation left Darth Marthael in shock, as he recognized this as a forbidden technology, Force technology. It was a form of technology utilized by the ancient and enigmatic Infinite Empire, also known as the Eternal Empire. An example of such technology was the Star Forge, a formidable war machine of the Rakata people, entirely driven by the dark side of the Force. This super space station was capable of sustaining a total war effort. Regrettably, the Star Forge was eventually destroyed. Rumors had it that certain extremist factions within the Jedi Order had also employed this technology during past conflicts, but with the conclusion of those wars, the Jedi Council had sealed away such technologies. Darth Malthael pondered whether, in addition to the Gauntlet of Little Klysch, there might be secrets of Force technology hidden within this place. As he delved deeper into his thoughts, he finally unraveled the workings of the massive robot. He commanded, "Everyone, cease fire." In an instant, he transformed into a wisp of smoke and surged forward. As the robot slammed its fist into the ground, Darth Malthael swiftly ascended its arm, reaching the shoulder in mere moments. There, he pressed his hand against the back of the robot's head, simultaneously channeling the Force in the opposite direction. A concealed button, safeguarded by a faint Force barrier, was suddenly activated. The robot ceased its movements immediately, and a hush fell over the surroundings. Lucien Dre's original purpose in designing these constructs was to differentiate between Sith and Jedi Knights, targeting only the Sith, Darth Malthael stated in a grave tone. The Sith, being inherently aggressive, would never consider coexisting peacefully with this robot. Thus, they are compelled into direct confrontation with a machine specifically engineered to counter Force-sensitive adversaries. However, he overlooked one detail. With the implementation of the Rule of Two, the Sith have evolved beyond their former recklessness and instability. This means, had we not discovered this tomb, the Gauntlet of Little Klysch might have fallen into other hands. But the passage remains sealed, Justin Reeves interjected, approaching the boulder that obstructed their path. He inspected it closely, his expression turning to one of frustration. "Go and see if you can extract the core of this robot. I'll examine it here," Darth Malthael instructed. Yes, Darth Malthael approached the boulder and noticed hundreds of small holes dotting its surface, each resembling the hilt of a lightsaber. This was yet another Force mechanism, indicating that Lucien Dre's design required further screening to distinguish between ordinary individuals and those sensitive to the Force. It was a safeguard against the destruction of the robots by anyone other than Force users. Inserting a lightsaber into the corresponding hole and activating it caused the boulder to sink into the ground, reopening the passage. As they proceeded, a soft light illuminated the end of the corridor. There, on a stone platform, lay a coffin, and floating before it was the delicate handguard of Little Klysch. Darth Malthael advanced slowly. Along the passage, 20 pillars adorned with various reliefs stood tall, and an underground river flowed beneath their feet. The walls were decorated with frescoes, depicting the life and achievements of the tomb's occupant, Lucien Dre. Vol. 2, Chapter 563, The Sale of Kidnapping. In the dimly lit chamber, Darth Malthael stood before the Sith artifact laid out before him, Little Klysch's gauntlet. However, his attention was momentarily diverted to the murals adorning the walls. Through these intricate frescoes, he delved into the life of Lucien Dre, particularly his prolonged conflict with the Sith Lord Hassan in his early years. The gauntlet, once wielded by Hassan, granted him near invincibility, rendering him undefeated until Lucien Dre emerged victorious, slaying Hassan and securing the gauntlet. Despite his triumph, Lucien Dre's legacy was tarnished by a scandal involving the genocide of the Mandalorians, leading to the disbandment of the Jedi Covenant, the loss of his sight, and his subsequent self-imposed exile, burdened by guilt. Blind to the world, Lucien Dre's spiritual insight deepened, allowing him to foresee a distant future. Utilizing his family's heritage, he acquired a remote moon and erected a grand temple, intending to resurrect the Jedi Covenant. Yet the new Jedi Covenant never came to fruition, and Lucien Dre spent his final days there, his dreams unfulfilled. This is not merely a mausoleum, it's connected to a larger temple built by Lucien Dre for his unrealized dream, the new Jedi Covenant, Darth Malthael remarked solemnly. This place harbors more dangers than we anticipated. Justin Reeves interjected. Beneath the 20 surrounding pillars lies a hidden space, each housing an inactive robot. We should avoid disturbing these robots. Do not touch anything. The Gauntlet of Little Klysch has imbued everything in this tomb with indestructibility over 3,000 years, Darth Malthael advised. Tur Ulan, still shaken by their encounter with a massive robot, inquired, "So, you haven't interacted with the gauntlet?" Approaching the stone coffin, Darth Malthael responded indifferently, "As guests, we must announce our presence to the host. Awaken, Lucien Del Rey." After 3,000 years, it's time for you to witness the state of this decaying galaxy. A phantom emerged from the coffin, gradually solidifying under Darth Marthal's necromantic power. The visage of a venerable old man materialized. "Who are you? Why have you disturbed my eternal rest?" the apparition inquired slowly. "I am a lost soul seeking the wisdom of my ancestors," Darth Marthal replied, bowing slightly. "Master Lucien Dre, the galaxy faces a new brink of destruction, and the Jedi Order is powerless to avert it. I seek your guidance. Your aura is shrouded in mystery and death. Who are you?" Lucien Dre's spirit demanded, his blind eyes piercing through the veil of deceit. Justin Reeves stepped forward, slicing his hand with a dagger. Blood dripped onto the floor, but with a mere gesture from Darth Marthal, the wound healed instantly, showcasing the duality of life and death. Life and death are two facets of the universe. If you, as a former leader of the Jedi Covenant, remain fixated on the dichotomy of existence, then you are no different from the current Jedi Order, Darth Marthal stated. "What are you trying to say? What has become of the Jedi Order?" Lucien Dre pressed, his tone sharp. "Your foresight could unveil the future. Why not see for yourself?" Darth Marthal sighed, sitting cross-legged beside the coffin with an air of familiarity. Lucien Dre extended his hands, feeling the void around him. His blind eyes suddenly flared with intensity, as if ready to pierce through the shadows of time to witness the galaxy's fate anew. In the dim light, Lucien Dre was engulfed by a sense of foreboding. "Darkness. I only see darkness. I can't see the future." "It's right that you can't see it," Darth Marthal replied, a faint sneer curling at the corner of his mouth. "The Milky Way has been torn asunder. Two major forces have divided the galaxy in two, igniting a civil war that has already claimed countless innocent lives. Could it be that the Sith Empire hasn't been vanquished?" Lucien exclaimed in disbelief. "No, the Sith Empire was completely annihilated 1,000 years ago, with the Galactic Republic emerging victorious from the war. However, a millennium later, the dark side has resurfaced. The current conflict pits the Galactic Republic against the Confederation of Galaxies, which has declared its independence from the Republic. The leaders of these factions are Darth Sidious and Darth Tyrannus, respectively," Darth Marthal explained, shaking his head with a sigh. Lucien Dre was puzzled. "I don't understand. Why would the leader of the Galactic Republic bear the title of Darth?" "Because Darth Sidious is the current speaker of the Galactic Republic," Darth Marthal revealed. "This is impossible," Lucien protested. "Nothing is impossible. Darth Tyrannus is Darth Sidious's apprentice. The entire Civil War is a Sith conspiracy designed to eliminate dissenters, weaken the Jedi Order, and ultimately usurp the Galactic Republic. Even though the Sith Empire was destroyed, the Sith are still capable of achieving their ambitions," Darth Marthal explained. "Is the Jedi Order merely a facade?" Lucien roared, incredulous. "A Sith Lord of such cunning and power is beyond what the Jedi Order can currently combat. As you've observed, the future of the entire galaxy is shrouded in darkness. The Jedi Order is diminishing, and another civil war of this magnitude is inevitable," Darth Marthal stated. "And what role do you play in all this?" Lucien inquired. "I was rejected by the Jedi Order, so I chose to forge my own path. Now I serve as the governor of a planet, struggling to survive in a war where both sides are adversaries," Darth Marthal shared. "Why were you rejected by the Jedi Order?" Lucien asked, curiosity piqued. "Because of my research into the force of life," Darth Marthal answered. "That doesn't make any sense," Lucien protested. "The original force of life encompasses both life and death, and the end of life is eternal life," Darth Marthal explained cryptically. "If I were still alive, I would never exile you," Lucien declared. "Oh, then?" Darth Marthal began. "I would kill you directly. You blasphemer, seeking immortality. Leave this place at once," Lucien exclaimed, his voice filled with righteous indignation. Instead of taking offense, Darth Marthal smiled and said slowly, "Soon, you will realize that I am your only connection to this world, and the future of the galaxy is spiraling towards an abyss. We shall meet again." Vol 2, Chapter 564, Secret Weapon. Emerging from the mausoleum, Turulan asked with caution, "My lord, why did you not take the gauntlet with you? That person is merely a soul. He surely cannot stop you." Darth Marthal responded with a smile. The gauntlet isn't going anywhere, and I'm not in any rush to find an adversary. On the contrary, acting too hastily might cause me to miss out on certain opportunities. How could you tolerate such insolence from that immortal old man? Why concern yourself with his opinions? Tur-Ulan pressed. Darth Marthael chuckled. If I can tolerate an immortal Sith Lord in my own ranks, why wouldn't I tolerate an immortal from the Jedi Covenant? If they truly irritate me, I might just lock them in the same room. But for now, I'm not in a hurry. His sneer deepened as he continued. Actually, upon discovering that there's still a temple here, I abandoned the idea of taking the gauntlet directly. He gazed out at the endless dark gray desert. This temple is where Lucien Dre planned to rebuild the Jedi Covenant, and it likely contains all the knowledge and legacy he accumulated throughout his life. It might even hold secrets of the Force technology. And now, this temple must be buried deep underground, with our only leads being this mausoleum and the confused soul of Lucien Del Rey. I doubt he'll willingly give you those things, Tur-Ulan remarked. You see, Wulan, I never force anyone to make a choice. I simply present them with several compelling options and let them choose the best one. Me, Darth Marthael explained. After losing his sight, Lucien Dre's ability to foresee events through the Force has only intensified. He can see many things for himself without needing my guidance. Every word I speak of the galaxy's future is the truth, and he will recognize that. Besides, his smile turned sinister. What could be more enticing to someone who has been dead for over 3,000 years than the chance to return to life? To change the course of a dark future, to rise again, and to prevent the collapse of all he holds dear. But didn't you mention that others might find this place? Tur-Ulan inquired further. Indeed, the mural we saw earlier reminded me. Lucien Del Rey was involved in a genocide against the Mandalorians, so there must be some records of him among the Mandalorians, Darth Marthael mused as they walked. Before they knew it, they had reached the Sith infiltrator. Stepping into the spaceship, Darth Marthael announced they should be arriving soon. They? The Mandalorians? Tur-Ulan asked, but Darth Marthael remained silent. Shortly after the spacecraft entered the outer orbit of the Dry 2 satellite, a flash of white light appeared in the distance. Then, 3 insect-like spacecraft emerged from the hyperspace channel. A robot with a head resembling a flashlight appeared on the communication screen, announcing, "We are here at your call, ally. Guard this planet. No one is to set foot here without my permission. In exchange, you will be granted permission to establish a base here," Darth Marthael commanded darkly. The agreement is established. The robot with the flashlight head promptly agreed. Almost immediately, countless small engineering robots emerged from the 3 spaceships. With the aid of the ship's tractor beams, various construction parts were extracted from the cargo holds and began to be assembled with remarkable efficiency. These robots, Tur-Ulan stared in disbelief at the scene unfolding before him, struggling to comprehend. "Let's go," Darth Marthael said, offering no further explanation as he settled into his seat. "Yes," Tur-Ulan replied, bowing his head, not daring to question further. This journey with Darth Marthael had solidified his belief in the Sith Lord's terrifying capabilities, which he now saw as rivaling those of Darth Plagueis. The same restraint, darkness, wisdom, and power were evident. Though there might still be a slight gap between them, it was not something Tur-Ulan felt qualified to judge. In the midst of what could be considered ordinary circumstances, the unfolding events of May 30th, 22 BBY marked a significant shift. Under the command of Adjutant Lin Nanyi, the main force of the Fourth Civilization's Fleet B launched a surprise attack on the planet Chalcedon. They decimated the Republic's outpost, seizing control of 2 colonies. Following a brief period of repairs, Fleet B swiftly redeployed, encircling the planet Noah Ha-Ang and positioning themselves threateningly towards the planet Kinyon. The planet Golden Rock, the ancestral home of the Grand People, boasts a population of 1.983 billion. Despite the Grand's considerable influence on Malastare, their efforts to align the planet with the Confederation of Independent Systems were unsuccessful. However, the onset of war saw Golden Rock steadfastly aligning with the Confederation. Its strategic location on the Corellian trade route rendered it a significant threat to the Galactic Republic's 19th Legion. The Confederation of Independent Systems had previously refrained from deploying troops to assist in the Battle of Bespin, adhering to Count Dooku's directives. However, the Republic's subsequent defeat prompted the Granites of Golden Rock to take action. Lin Nanyi's strategic positioning of Fleet B near Noahang Planet, in conjunction with forces from Golden Rock, spelled potential disaster for the 19th Army. Upon receiving this intelligence, Suramar, the governor of the 19th Legion, was propelled into action. He redirected 2/3 of his fleet to the planet Kal, transforming the once peaceful resort into a fortified military base. The sole consolation was Noahang's status as a former Killik colony, now a planet overrun by primitive jungles and aggressive, non-sentient insects. This environment limited Fleet B's ability to resupply effectively. Yet, the true objective of the Fourth Civilization lay elsewhere. Following a tip from Bulka the Hutt, Severance Tan executed a swift assault on the Republic's secret research center on the planet Eridon. The center, dedicated to studying the extractors, fell quickly under Tan's forceful strike. The Republic's defenders, overwhelmed, scrambled to safeguard the extractors' data, abandoning their heavy equipment, including 3 prototype extractors, in their hasty retreat. Severance Tan, alongside Darth Lilim, navigated through the remnants of Eridon's defenses to the research center. Within the expansive underground hangar, they discovered 3 massive armored vehicles, each approximately 30 meters in length, known as decimators. This marked a pivotal moment, hinting at the unfolding of a larger scheme within the shadows of the war. Vol 2, Chapter 565, Aralis Satellite Landing Battle, Part 1. Severance Tan approached one of the massive extractor tanks, her gaze scrutinizing the war machine that, from the outside, didn't seem particularly formidable. Indeed, this was the case. The conventional wisdom that the power of a weapon can be gauged by its abundance of gun barrels or the thickness of its mechanical armor did not apply here. At first glance, the extractor tank appeared to have minimal armor, with the main structure behind the red sphere resembling a modest building more than a military fortification. From any perspective, the tank looked more like a civilian vehicle than a piece of military hardware. A technician nearby, analyzing the scant data they had managed to gather, commented, "This tank, if it can indeed be classified as such, lacks armor protection, except for the small portion housing the cab and command center, which seems designed more for research and observation purposes. However, it possesses significant practical value due to its powerful shielding. From what we've seen, it can easily withstand fire from the Republic's SPAT self-propelled artillery, which is among the most formidable ground-based firepower we're aware of." "Is the red sphere a weapon?" Tan inquired. "Yes," the technician replied. "It houses an array of kyber crystals. When activated, the energy from these crystals is concentrated and emitted as a powerful plasma jet in any direction, similar to a lightsaber's mechanism. The destructive power of this weapon is immense. Even a battleship would sustain severe damage if struck." "Let's get them moving," Severance Tan commanded, gesturing for her team to follow as she headed outside. That might be problematic," the technician interjected, adjusting his glasses with a hint of embarrassment. "These 3 prototypes are password-locked, and we're unable to activate them." Without breaking stride, Tan responded, "We can't linger here. Dispatch a spaceship with a tractor beam to retrieve the 3 prototypes. Have we determined the direction in which the Wookiees fled?" The latter part of her question was directed at the intelligence department nearby. The Wookiee colony on the Aralis satellite, an oceanic planet, is urgently requesting Republic assistance. "We must act swiftly," an intelligence officer reported. "Aralis is in proximity to the Wookiees' homeworld, Kashyyyk. Given that the Wookiees lack a fleet and the Republic's current weakened state, reinforcements will be challenging to muster, but we must move quickly. Let's go." Severance Tan commanded with urgency. A fleet comprising 20 fan-shaped Diamond-class multi-purpose transport cruisers, 3 Apocalypse-class light cruisers, 10 Vengeance-class light destroyers, and 10 Guard-class anti-aircraft destroyers ascended into space. They entered the hyperspace channel via the Tyon trade route, heading towards the Wookiees' homeland. This agile fleet was designed to minimize hyperspace disturbances, avoiding detection by the Galactic Republic's outposts scattered across major hyperspace routes. Tan was confident in the sufficiency of these forces. The fleet emerged from hyperspace into the Kashyyyk system, targeting the Artanis satellite orbiting a massive gas giant in the galaxy. The Republic and the Wookiees had jointly established 2 space stations to guard the planet's outer perimeter. However, the defensive capabilities of these stations were no match for Severance Tan's impending assault. Upon reaching the battlefield, Severance Tan shifted from her previously aggressive demeanor to a calm and strategic approach in deploying her forces. The Guard-class anti-aircraft destroyers were positioned on the outer edges, while the Apocalypse-class light cruisers. In the heart of the battle formation, the formidable Apocalypse-class and Vengeance-class cruisers unleashed their long-range firepower. Uniquely positioned, the 20 Diamond-class multi-purpose transport cruisers maintained a somewhat independent formation. The Apocalypse-class and Vengeance-class cruisers, equipped with their powerful main guns, including 2 medium turbo lasers on the Apocalypse-class that rivaled the firepower of Chariot-class cruisers, launched an intense barrage. The shields of the 2 space stations buckled under the onslaught, shimmering with the impact of each hit. In the command center of one of the besieged space stations, the Wookiee commander issued an angry roar. The distinct nature of the Wookiee language made it difficult to discern whether it was a roar of communication or frustration. He swiftly ordered the launch of dozens of fighter jets in response. However, this move was met with a cold smile from Severance Tan. With a casual flick of her finger, she commanded, "Land immediately." "But, General, the enemy has just launched their fighters," a staff officer protested, puzzled by the order. "That's typical Wookiee strategy. It's fine. Proceed with the landing," Tan instructed confidently. The 20 Diamond-class transport cruisers, maintaining their distinct formation, commenced their descent. They boldly ignored the Wookiee resistance, heading straight for the satellite of Artanis. The sudden split of the enemy fleet caught the Wookiee fighter pilots off guard. However, their innate fighting spirit and ferocity quickly took over, and with a fearsome roar, they charged towards the Apocalypse-class light cruisers that were bombarding them. On the ground, the Wookiees were prepared to face any challenge, their reputation as formidable warriors undisputed in the galaxy. The space battle erupted with intensity. Despite Severance Tan's fleet being limited in fighter support, the Apocalypse and Vengeance-class cruisers, primarily designed for air defense, were strategically positioned. The destroyers, under Tan's command, formed tight defensive formations, engaging the Wookiee fighters with relentless determination. Darth Lilim approached Tan, her movements sinuous and graceful, reminiscent of a serpent. She lounged lazily behind Tan's seat, idly twirling a lock of her curly black hair, her interest piqued. "Are you sure you don't need my assistance?" she inquired. "At this moment, the Republic is still underestimating our capabilities." However, introducing a Sith into the fray would certainly change the narrative, Tan explained. Darth Lilim smirked, her lips curling with amusement. "Didn't a little Jedi manage to escape from me recently?" she mused, recalling the encounter. "It seems that the Republic's forces are moving under the assumption that this little Jedi intends to resolve the situation single-handedly," Tan observed, analyzing the strategic implications of their enemy's movements. Attachment 1 of the Easter egg chapter, Landing on the Artanis satellite. Attachment 2 of the Easter egg chapter, Wookiee Warriors. Vol 2, Chapter 566, Battle for the Artanis Satellite Landing, Part 2. In the holographic projection, Master Yoda appeared contemplative. "Darth Lilim, an apprentice, you say?" "Yes, Master Yoda. Darth Lilim is an apprentice of the Sith," replied Joel Drakus, a Twi'lek Jedi Knight, with a bow. "Her presence exudes a power that feels far beyond that of a mere fallen Jedi." "What is their plan?" Master Yoda inquired. "They're launching an assault on the Wookiee colony on Artanis. It's possible they're after something significant. After all, we did apprehend a separatist spy recently," Joel Drakus explained. "They might have valuable information." "Large-scale military operations are not underway. The Republic's fleet will not be mobilized for this." Master Yoda pondered for a moment before advising. "Act with caution. Master Shenjan, who is returning from the planet Anagi, will be the closest support." But, Master, there could be a secret research project on the Aralis satellite. I request immediate reinforcements. This time, I won't engage in a lightsaber duel. I plan to confront them directly on the battlefield. Joel Drakas stated with determination. Master Yoda, though hesitant, did not wish to dampen the young Jedi's spirit. The defense forces of the Mitalar sector may be reinforced, he conceded. I will protect the Aralis satellite. Capturing Darth Lilim will unveil the secrets of the Sith, Joel Drakas declared resolutely. However, do not rush into a decisive battle before Master Shenjan arrives, Master Yoda cautioned, tapping his cane firmly on the ground. May the Force be with you. Above the Aralis satellite, 20 Diamond-class multi-purpose transport cruisers, each over 200 meters wide and shaped like a fan, descended from the sky. The planet's anti-aircraft defenses were firing at full capacity. Missiles soared into the air, and all available anti-aircraft weapons, including blasters, laser cannons, and even armor-piercing high-explosive shells, were unleashed by the Wookiees without hesitation. Their fire created a dense barrage against the Diamond-class shields. Hundreds of Wookiees' unique gliding aircraft took to the skies. The Wookiee warriors, armed to the teeth and possessing formidable strength, manned these aircraft, wielding heavy blaster machine guns. Their firepower was relentless, yet it was not enough to prevent the Diamond-class transport cruisers from landing. The Aralis satellite was an oceanic planet dotted with numerous islands. However, due to the Wookiees' limited population and industrial capabilities, these islands remained largely undeveloped, covered in dense, primitive jungles. The Wookiees had established military bases on 5 of these islands, equipped with powerful land-based heavy artillery to form a solid island chain defense line protecting the planet's core capital. Under the command of T-Series tactical droids, the 20 Diamond-class transport cruisers initially attempted an assault on one of the islands. However, they quickly realized that the cruisers could not smoothly deploy troops due to the valiant resistance of the Wookiees. Severance Tan, taking command, directed all cruisers to land on an uninhabited desert island to offload their forces. The deployment included over 40,000 B-1 battle droids, more than 200 B-2 super battle droids, and hundreds of Nest Spider and Dwarf Spider combat droids. The Wookiees responded to the landing almost immediately. They flew to the desert island in their gliding aircraft, howling as they leaped from the crafts and charged with their signature blaster crossbows. Despite their ferocity, the droid army, bolstered by the firepower of the Diamond-class transport cruisers stationed on the ground, managed to repel the Wookiee assault. The battle raged for over an hour, with the Wookiees launching wave after wave of attacks. Severance Tan had already decimated more than 200 corpses and obliterated over 600 robots before being forced to retreat. At this juncture, the tide of the battle in space began to shift in favor of Severance Tan. The Wookiee fighters struggled in vain to penetrate the defensive perimeter of the Guard-class anti-aircraft destroyers. Meanwhile, their space station was severely compromised under the relentless assault from the Apocalypse-class and Vengeance-class light cruisers, riddled with gaping holes from the bombardment. These tactical robots are utterly inept. Severance Tan had long since diverted her attention from the space skirmish, engrossed instead by the ground conflict displayed on the holographic battlefield projection. She absent-mindedly twirled a turquoise-blue finger around her jet-black hair. "I'll take command on the ground," she declared, rising to her feet. "I have no interest in playing monkey games in the jungle." Darth Lilim, with a dismissive snort, occupied Tan's captain's seat, casually propping her legs up. "There are more entertaining pursuits here." "Suit yourself," Severance Tan retorted, making her way to the hangar. She boarded her specialized Ghost fighter jet and set a direct course for the Aralis satellite. As she maneuvered out of the fleet formation, a Wookiee fighter locked onto her, unleashing a dense barrage of energy fire. Tan's Ghost fighter, with graceful agility, dodged the onslaught, swiftly predicted the enemy's trajectory, and without even activating the fire control radar, dispatched it with a Gemini missile at close range. Upon landing on the desert island where the robot army had made landfall, Severance Tan hastened into the temporary headquarters. A T-Series tactical robot, stationed before the holographic map, promptly saluted and began to update her on the battle situation. However, before it could finish, a yellow lightsaber flashed, decapitating the droid. Deploy all landing ships and launch an immediate assault on Raynor Island, Severance Tan commanded. As for the remaining robots, start digging. Establish a beachhead. Roger, Roger. A B-1 battle droid, imbued with captain's authority and sporting a yellow head, promptly acknowledged. Under Tan's directive, an army of 10,000 robots swiftly embarked on the prepped landing ships. Moreover, 2 Diamond-class transport cruisers, having taken off once more, now skimmed the sea's surface, acting as a protective shield for the landing fleet. In a daring move, they rammed straight into the Wookiees' island chain defense, breaching it despite their shields being obliterated and their armor compromised, flames engulfing their interiors. Like a relentless tide, tens of thousands of robots swarmed the island, their advance marked by the relentless fire of blasters and rockets. The landing ships, now emptied, promptly returned to base, gearing up for the next wave of the assault. By the time Joel Delacus arrived with reinforcements to the outer orbit of Aralis, the situation was dire. One of the 2 space stations lay in ruins, and the Wookiees had sustained severe casualties. Moreover, the news of Raynor Island's fall reached him, underscoring the grim reality that had he delayed any further, the satellite of Aralis would have already fallen into Severance Tan's clutches. Vol 2, Chapter 567, Death Chase. Joel Delacus was taken aback by the ferocity of the battle unfolding before him. In just a single day, the enemy had managed to breach the Wookiees' formidable defenses. Order all units to immediately land on the Aralis moon to support the ground operations. We stand no chance in a space battle, he declared, scrutinizing the Separatist fleet's formation on the holographic battlefield projection. Despite having only 10 Guard-class air defense destroyers, their strategic placement effectively bolstered the limited air defense capabilities of the Apocalypse and Vengeance-class ships. These ships then leveraged their long-range firepower to bombard the Republic's space station relentlessly, compelling the Wookiee fighters to engage in a direct assault against their tight defense. Joel's fleet, primarily composed of transport ships, was ill-equipped for space combat. As the transport fleet maneuvered around the Republic space station, the Separatist fleet maintained its formation, opting not to pursue an attack. The outcome of the battle, Joel realized, would ultimately be determined on the ground. And, crucially, the power of the dark side was manifesting on the moon of Aralis. A surge of anger welled up in Joel as he remembered his friend Git, who had sacrificed his life to allow him to escape. This dishonor demanded retribution in blood. However, just as he was rallying his resolve, a sudden, intense premonition of danger washed over him. The alarm blared, and he saw a dark ghost fighter jet launching from the Separatist spaceship, hurtling towards his transport fleet at an astonishing speed. The ghost fighter effortlessly downed 2 Wookiee fighters, posing no threat to it, and then targeted the transport fleet, launching 6 Gemini missiles in quick succession. It's her! Joel's eyes blazed with fury. He shoved an officer aside, sprinted towards the hangar platform, and bellowed, "Take command of the ground forces. I'll handle this Sith myself." He leaped into his Delta 7 fighter and soared out of the transport ship, barreling towards the black ghost fighter. Midway, however, a faint electric light flickered across the ghost fighter, which then vanished without a trace, undetectable even by radar. "Stealth system," Joel cursed under his breath. "Foolish Sith, your vile dark side presence is as conspicuous as mud on a carpet." Guided by the Force, he fired a volley of blasts into the void, though his shots missed their mark. Yet, Joel sensed the ghost fighter evading and gritted his teeth, pursuing it relentlessly. Suddenly, the public communication channel crackled to life, revealing a beautiful Sith with sapphire-like skin and a captivating face. She chuckled. "How about we play a game, little Jedi Knight?" Licking her lips, she proposed. "I'll run, and you chase me. Catch me, and you can do whatever you wish with me." Her voice was seductive and enticing. "This will be your end," Joel declared grimly. "Come after me, then," Darth Lilim taunted, accelerating her invisible ghost fighter. Her true target was not Joel, but the transport ships carrying 10,000 Republic ground troops from the Mitalar sector, including 1,000 clone troopers. This army was crucial for turning the tide of the war. Ignoring the transport ship's close-range fire, Darth Lilim launched several Gemini air-to-air missiles at point-blank range. The upgraded missiles, now equipped with antimatter warheads, shattered the transport ship's shields in a blinding explosion. Unlike Joel, who could use the Force to sense his enemy, the transport ships were defenseless. Joel Drakus was seething with rage as he piloted his fighter jet in hot pursuit of Darth Lilim. He unleashed a barrage of fire, the beams raining down like a torrential downpour. Yet, Darth Lilim's fighter maneuvered through space with the agility of a loach, dodging every attack without the need for instruments. Even when Drakus managed to predict her location, his jet's response lagged, always a moment too slow to catch her. Meanwhile, the Black Ghost fighters ruthlessly bombarded the transport ship, firing without restraint. Darth Lilim, with cunning precision, targeted the shield near the ship's engine. She knew that to penetrate the atmosphere, the ship would have to redirect its shield energy to the front, leaving it vulnerable. On the other side of the space station, the Wookiees, having noticed the ongoing battle, dispatched their remaining fighters. However, their efforts amounted to little more than futile circling. The transport ship, already battered by over a dozen of Darth Lilim's Gemini missiles, saw its shield finally give way. The pilot, realizing the dire situation, attempted to accelerate, but it was a vain effort against the inevitable. With the shield gone, the transport ship's outer armor heated up alarmingly due to atmospheric friction, glowing a bright red. Seizing the moment, Darth Lilim dived down and launched two final, deadly Gemini missiles directly into the spacecraft's engine. The resulting explosions were catastrophic. The transport ship disintegrated rapidly, ejecting Republic soldiers into the void, where they were instantly incinerated by the intense flames, their ashes scattering towards the planet below. At that moment, there were no survivors left aboard. Darth Lilim's laughter, both enchanting and mocking, filled the public channel as her ghost fighter descended through the atmosphere of Auralis's satellite, landing on a desert island controlled by the robot army. "I must kill you! I must kill you! Even if you flee to the universe's edge, I will find you and kill you!" Joel Drakus roared with a fury so intense it tore at his throat, the taste of iron filling his mouth. "I'm not hiding, just here." Darth Lilim's taunting reply came through, her confidence chilling. Vol 2, Chapter 568, Fury Unleashed. In the heart of Chendril Island's dense jungle, a fierce battle raged. A Wookiee warrior, his roar piercing the air, leaped from the canopy, laser crossbow in hand. With a swift motion, he brought a B-1 battle droid crashing to the ground before turning his weapon on a B-2 super battle droid lurking behind. The crossbow bolt, sheathed in an explosive energy beam, struck its target, triggering a secondary reaction that blasted a gaping hole in the droid's armor. Sparks flew as the robot toppled over. Despite the relentless onslaught of enemy robots, the Wookiee warrior dodged through the jungle with agility. A laser shot singed his fur, eliciting a howl of pain, yet he remained undeterred, taking down another droid with a precise shot. However, his resistance was short-lived. A devastating laser beam swept through the area, igniting everything in its path. The intense heat melted even the rocks, leaving a path of destruction. An OG-9 homing spider droid, towering at 7 meters, advanced slowly. Its hydraulic legs moved with purpose as its laser cannons fired relentlessly, setting the jungle and Wookiee positions ablaze. The Wookiees, known for their bravery and strength, were forced to retreat under the overwhelming firepower. After the fall of Rakroro, Severance Tan's forces launched a relentless assault on Chidri. 2,000 Wookiee warriors stationed on the island fought valiantly against the 10,000-strong robot army, which included several formidable homing spider droids. Despite being outnumbered, the Wookiees' fierce determination inflicted significant losses on the enemy. Reinforcements from the Wookiee defenders on the neighboring islands arrived, and though they were pushed back, they continued to deal heavy blows to the robot army. Severance Tan employed a cunning strategy, using 2 Diamond-class multipurpose transport cruisers as shields to breach the Wookiee lines. This tactic proved effective, as most of the Wookiee base's firepower was directed skyward, leaving them vulnerable to attacks from the sea. Despite losing 2 Diamond-class cruisers, Tan's Legion was on the verge of breaking through the defenses of the Artanis planet. The potential gains, including valuable research data and activation codes, far outweighed the loss of cruisers and robots. Darth Lilim landed her Black Ghost Fighter at the robot army's base on a desert island and made her way to the temporary command center. Severance Tan greeted her with a backhanded compliment, acknowledging her role in manipulating the emotions of the opposing commander. Darth Lilim, unfazed, expressed her indifference to praise, stating her only desire was to fulfill her master's wish to conquer the galaxy. Their conversation took a mocking turn as they speculated about the intentions of a Jedi pursuer. The exchange between Darth Lilim and Severance Tan, both powerful and cunning in their own right, hinted at the complex dynamics at play in their alliance. As the battle for Chendril Island continued, the stakes grew ever higher, with the fate of the galaxy hanging in the balance. At that moment, another bolt of lightning seemed to clash in the middle of the confrontation. "Take me? You must be joking. As long as I command the army, no one can stand against me," Severance Tan declared with pride. "Then you'd better watch out. Only half of your forces are currently at your base, and those you've dispatched have already suffered significant losses," Darth Lilim whispered menacingly into Tan's ear. After delivering her warning, she sauntered out of the command center, found an appealing tree, leaped onto it, and reclined on its branches, eagerly anticipating the unfolding drama. "Humph, foolish man. With your level of intelligence, you dare discuss strategy with me," Severance Tan scoffed disdainfully. "We must take action now." Joel Delicus passionately slammed his hand on the table, igniting the room. "Ah!" The Wookiee commander roared in agreement, clearly in favor of the proposal. "While the separatist droid army is advancing, do we stand a chance of victory? Why not reinforce Chidre Island, utilize its defenses to diminish the robot numbers, and then counterattack?" suggested one of Middlear's officers, offering a different perspective. "That's pointless." Joel Delicas dismissed the idea with a wave of his hand. "Even if we eliminate all the robots on Chidre Island, that's merely a few thousand units. It won't be enough to defeat the separatists completely." He pointed aggressively at the map. Currently, there are about 4,000 to 5,000 robot troops on Lacroro Island. They haven't regrouped with their main force yet and are attacking Chidri. The Separatists' defenses at their bases are weakened, with half the usual number of defenders and a lack of heavy equipment. This is our opportunity. The officer from Middlear looked solemn, clearly not convinced by Joel Delicaz's strategy. But Master Yoda mentioned that Jedi Master Shen Zhan was on his way. "I've heard of this master. He is both cautious and powerful. We should hold the Separatist army here, wait for Master Shen Zhan's arrival, and then launch a decisive counterattack to obliterate them." "Have you forgotten what they did to us in outer space? More than 500 of our brothers were on that ship. It was destroyed right before our eyes. How can you be so indifferent?" Joel Delicus roared, his voice filled with emotion. "Master Shen Zhan won't be bringing additional troops. He's only one man. If we don't seize this opportunity now and allow the Separatists to regroup all their robots on that island for defense, we will pay a much higher price later. The ones who will suffer then will still be the soldiers of the Republic." Officer Middleal sighed and bowed his head, seemingly swayed by Joel Delicaz's argument. The Wookiee commander shouted it once more, expressing his support for Joel Delicas's plan. "Prepare for an immediate attack, but we must also proceed with caution. The enemy has a powerful Sith Lord. Even as we take the offensive, we must fight strategically. We don't need to annihilate them, just encircle them and wait for Master Shen Zhan's arrival," Joel Delicas commanded, setting the final course of action. Vol 2, Chapter 569, The Fall of Artanis, Part 1. The Wookiees of Artanis had dedicated nearly their entire air force to combat. Despite their technology not being particularly advanced, the Wookiees had managed to develop a unique civilization. This was largely due to their integration into the Galactic Republic, which had elevated their technological capabilities from their previously primitive state. Among them, a select group of elites, educated within the Republic, had mastered advanced technology and developed secret weapons, such as extractors. However, the average living standards and technological levels of the Wookiee population still lagged significantly behind those of the Galactic Republic. The Wookiee Air Force primarily consisted of two types of intra-atmospheric fighters, both of which utilized flapping wings to generate lift. The first was the Ovor jet catamaran, a twin-body thopter measuring 15 meters in length, with two open-top fuselages capable of carrying two Wookiee warriors each. Its main armament consisted of two blaster cannons, though pilots, in moments of rage, were known to drop bombs directly from the cockpit. The second was the Artanis light thopter, a 7-meter-long craft resembling a hollowed-out super wasp, manned by two Wookiee pilots and armed with a Galactic Republic E-Web heavy blaster gun mounted below. These flappers, resembling agile ultralight helicopters, lacked shields and had virtually no armor. The Wookiee pilots, with their tough fur, might have been considered to have better defense than their crafts. Nonetheless, these flappers boasted remarkable flexibility, capable of executing sharp turns at high speeds, a surprising design feature considering the Wookiees' towering and intimidating stature. Over 200 Ovor and Artanis thopters swarmed a Republic transport ship as it made its way toward a deserted island, the location of Severance Tan's droid legion. Severance Tan, facing such a formidable aerial assault, chose not to engage directly. Instead, she ordered her forces to utilize the 16 Diamond-class transport cruisers, still grounded, as makeshift anti-aircraft artillery positions. Despite their efforts, the Wookiee thopters struggled to penetrate the defenses of the Diamond-class transport cruisers due to their lack of heavy firepower. Joel Delacas, leading the operation, was forced to command the transport fleet to retreat to the beach's edge, establishing a landing zone from which the troops began their steady advance. However, as the battle commenced, the Republic forces discovered that Severance Tan's droid army had already prepared extensive trench networks across the terrain, as if anticipating the Republic's landing strategy. The beach, backed by Tyreewook Island and featuring flat, open terrain with a dense jungle ahead, served as an ideal landing site for the Republic forces. Severance Tan had also recognized this strategic advantage, directing her B-1 combat droids to tirelessly dig trenches, creating a formidable defensive network that halted the Republic's advance. The saying goes, droids aren't frightening unless they're tactically aware. When these typically straightforward droids began utilizing trenches for cover and executing ambushes, they transformed into a formidable nightmare for the Republic forces. This tactical shift was a simple programming adjustment, yet it significantly altered the battlefield dynamics. The Republic's armored units, primarily consisting of TX-130 Saber-class hovering combat vehicles, were deployed in the absence of ATT tactical walkers, which were unsuitable for the oceanic planet's terrain. Under Joel Drakas's command, a 9,000-strong Republic army, including 1,000 elite clone troopers, launched a determined assault. Additionally, the Wookiees had rallied a force of 2,000 soldiers from various tribes, ready to defend their home against the encroaching droid army. The skies above the battlefield were dominated by more than 200 thopters, representing the entirety of the Wookiees' air power. Explosions erupted continuously on the beachhead, creating a scene of chaos and destruction. At the forefront, dozens of TX-130 Saber-class hover tanks burst into action, their dual laser cannons firing relentlessly to eliminate the droid army's entrenched positions. Following closely behind, clone troopers swarmed into the breaches created by the hover tanks, dispersing in small units to infiltrate and dismantle the droid defenses. The Wookiee warriors, known for their bravery and formidable strength, proved to be a force to be reckoned with. Their thick, rugged skin and immense physical power allowed them to tear apart droids with their bare hands. Moreover, each Wookiee was an adept hunter, wielding laser crossbows with deadly precision. When they charged into battle, their ferocity and power rivaled that of the Saber-class hover tanks. In stark contrast, the 8,000 troops of the Galactic Republic's local defense forces in the Middle-Earth sector seemed almost ineffectual. Lacking in tactical acumen, they barely managed to execute basic small group maneuvers, resorting to indiscriminate firing. Despite their shortcomings, the Republic forces soon encountered a significant obstacle: the droid army's trenches. These were not simple excavations, but an extensive network extending in all directions and spanning a depth of 5 kilometers, hindering the Republic's advance at every turn. Keep attacking. They can't have infinite reinforcements. Every droid we take down brings us closer to victory. Joel Delacus encouraged his troops, his voice echoing across the battlefield. Despite the slow progress, the holographic map showed the Republic forces gradually pushing the droid army back. Joel's eyes blazed with determination as he dismissed the enemy's tactics as mere tricks, underestimating the strategic depth of his adversary. Meanwhile, Darth Lilim observed the battle from a distance, perched atop a large tree. Casually eating a fruit, she watched the unfolding chaos through her binoculars. Eventually, she lost interest, dismissing the Jedi's efforts as insufficient to pose a real challenge. Suddenly, an urgent alarm sounded at Joel Delacas's headquarters. "General, Ramatuk Island is under attack," one of the signal officers reported, panic in his voice. Joel was taken aback, unable to comprehend how the enemy could launch such an attack when their forces were supposedly engaged elsewhere. But the bad news kept coming, with reports of attacks on Talvi Wook Island and Rawarku, leaving Joel in a state of disbelief and confusion. Across the battlefield, in the temporary command center of the droid base, Severance Tan watched the developments with a smirk. With her hands crossed and leaning against the table, her bright red eyes gleamed with anticipation. "The real show is about to begin," she murmured, a cruel smile playing on her lips. Attachment 1 of the Easter egg chapter, Wookiee Evao Type Twin Body Thopter. Attachment 2 of the Easter egg chapter, the Wookiee Bite Tooth B Type Light Thopter. Vol 2 Chapter 570, The Fall of Araris, Middle. Darth Lilim entered the command center with a hint of sarcasm in her voice. "It seems your conspiracy has succeeded once again?" Severance Tan, sitting with her legs crossed, responded nonchalantly. The textbooks at Chisman Military Academy emphasize the importance of timing, strategic planning, and understanding both yourself and your enemy on almost every page. Therefore, when a conventional Chiz commander launches a sudden and desperate attack, it's a clear indication of an underlying strategy. She paused to take a sip of her coffee before continuing. "Of course, I'm not entirely bound by these principles. However, the fact that the Jedi Knight opposing us failed to recognize such a basic tactic is quite disappointing." "Ah, the old fight to the east, attack in the west strategy? Have you revisited The Art of War that our master shared with us?" Darth Lilim inquired. "It's a fascinating read. Despite its age and the irrelevance of its ancient cold weapon warfare, the strategic insights it offers are timeless and profound," Severance Tan remarked, taking another sip of her coffee. "Prepare yourself. It's time for him to make his move. I've already faced this young adversary twice, and frankly, I've lost interest in a beaten foe. You handle it, but should he succumb to the dark side, do let me know," Darth Lilim said dismissively. She picked a piece of fruit from a nearby table, flaunted it before Tan, and sauntered off with a serpentine grace. The Wookiees' island chain defense line comprised 5 island bases. Rukroro Island had already fallen, and the defenders of Chidri Island were locked in fierce combat with the invading robot army. Thus, the remaining 3 islands were crucial to sustaining the entire Wookiee defense system. Given the previous battle's casualty ratio between Chidri Island and Rukroro Island, Severance Tan's robot army seemingly lacked the numbers to overrun this defense line, making failure seem inevitable. The command centers for the Republic Army and the Wookiees were situated on Ravavarok, the largest and most fortified island. Talviwook Island served as a vital supply hub, while Lamatuk Island functioned as a frontline base, heavily fortified like Rukroro and Chidri Islands. However, with 45,000 robots stationed on Rukroro Island and thousands more engaged on Chidri Island, the notion of dividing forces to assault the remaining 3 islands seemed implausible. "Where is the Separatist transport ship?" Joel Drakas demanded, grabbing an officer from the Mitalar sector. "The robot army is currently stationed on Rukroro Island. We've monitored all their transport ships. None have evaded our surveillance," the officer replied, visibly distressed. "And the situation on the 3 islands? How many troops have they deployed for the sneak attack?" Joel inquired further. Not many, approximately 500 on each island, but they're all medium-armored units, the signal soldier reported, projecting the battlefield's video feed onto the screen. The footage revealed hundreds of circular, quadruped combat machines, each over 3 meters long, scaling the nearly vertical cliffs of the 3 islands. These were DSD-1 dwarf spider fighting machines, each about 3.05 meters in diameter and 1.98 meters high, equipped with a hemispherical body, 4 mechanical legs, and a long turbo laser cannon, providing formidable firepower. Their sealed armor made them highly defensive and capable of amphibious operations, despite their limited numbers. Despite their diminutive name, the dwarf spider combat machines that attacked the islands were formidable adversaries. They adeptly scaled the vertical cliffs, rendering the Wookiees' defensive firepower ineffective. At this critical juncture, the Wookiees' air power was preoccupied with the main force of the robot army besieging Severance Tane on a distant desert island. Contrary to what their name might suggest, these dwarf spider machines were highly practical and powerful due to their low center of gravity, robust firepower, and thick armor. Their most notable ability was to traverse any terrain, including climbing vertical walls with precision. As the dwarf spider machines launched their assault from the cliffs, their objective was unmistakable. They headed straight for the communication base station situated at the island's peak. Their target is the communication base station. We must stop them, Joel Delacasse shouted, panic evident in his voice. The Alaris satellite, orbiting the gas giant planet Alaris, faced significant communication challenges due to the magnetic field of the gas giant. The satellite's complex terrain and dense jungles further exacerbated these issues. To mitigate this, the Wookiees had constructed 5 large communication base stations. The destruction of these stations would render the Republic Army on the satellite completely isolated. However, it was already too late. The few troops remaining on the island were powerless against the dwarf spider machines, which relentlessly bombarded the communication base station. How did they get there? Joel Delacasse was on the verge of despair. Watching a video feed, he saw a dwarf spider machine get hit and fall off a cliff into the sea, only to emerge and continue its assault. It dawned on him then, it's the Diamond-class transport cruisers. They transported the combat machines. When the robot army attacked the islands, they deployed these machines from the cruisers into the sea. The machines then made their way from the ocean floor. We must retreat immediately. Without communication, capturing this deserted island is impossible, Officer Middleall advised urgently. Retreat, now! Joel Delacasse decided swiftly. But then a terrifying thought struck him. If these dwarf spider machines were amphibious, capable of moving through water, his face, already pale, lost all color, and he collapsed to the ground. In the desert island command center, a sinister smile played on Severance Tan's lips. The Force has already revealed your fears to me, little Jedi. Yes, it seems you've realized my strategy. Attachment 1 of the Easter egg chapter. The DSD-1 dwarf spider fighting machine, known from the battle on the Geonosian planet, comes in general, amphibious, reloaded, and upgraded models, each differing significantly in appearance. Vol 2, Chapter 571, The Fall of Araris, Part 2. At that moment, the shallow sea behind the Republic's landing beach suddenly illuminated with a sinister red glow. Without warning, a blood-red energy beam erupted from the depths, striking the underside of a transport ship with devastating force. The explosion that followed was violent, causing the ship's shields to flicker uncertainly. However, this was merely the beginning. A barrage of red energy blasts surged from the seafloor, mercilessly targeting the vulnerable Republic transport ships. These were the DSD-1 dwarf spider combat machines, specialized for amphibious warfare. It was at this point that Joel Delacasse realized his grave error. He had underestimated the Separatist robot army's capability to seize control of the islands. If he could see this, surely the opposing commander was also aware. Yet, she had chosen to launch a bold offensive, not with the intention of conquering the Wookiees' island chain defenses, but to set the stage for a decisive battle at her base. Every move was a calculated step towards this climactic confrontation. Previously, the Separatist army had deployed thousands of these dwarf spider combat machines on the planet Eridon. However, upon landing on the moon of Araris, their presence was notably absent, with only OG-9 homing spider droids providing fire support. Had Joel Drakas analyzed the troop deployments, combat capabilities, terrain, and the opposing commander's psychology more carefully, he might have avoided walking into this trap. Now, it was revealed that 1,500 dwarf spider combat machines had been dispatched to attack communication bases on 3 islands, suggesting that at least 1,000 more were concealed beneath the sea near the beach. These machines had initially hidden in deeper waters to evade detection. After the beachhead battle, they began their slow advance into the shallows, delivering a crippling blow to the Republic's landing forces. The situation worsened when the remnants of the robot forces, numbering in the thousands, embarked on the transport ships after capturing Raynor Island. Instead of retreating towards the Confederate-controlled territory, they circled around and launched a surprise attack on the Republic's rear. Under normal circumstances, this maneuver would be tantamount to suicide. However, with the support of 2,000 amphibious dwarf spider combat machines, it transformed into a lethal ambush. Indeed, there were 2,000 units, not the 2,500 Joel Drakas had anticipated. The total force comprised 3,500 dwarf spider combat machines. Severance Tan, a military prodigy from the Chiz Military Academy, had her strategies deeply influenced by her education. Her preferred tactic was to use post-production forces effectively. These slow-moving dwarf spider machines were not intended for a frontal assault, but for a strategic defense. By adopting a defensive stance as an offensive strategy, Tan aimed to force the Republic's defending forces into a vulnerable position. Her army might not have been strong enough for a direct offensive, but it was perfectly suited for a defensive battle. The 2,000 dwarf spider combat machines beneath the shallow sea advanced while unleashing a relentless barrage of fire. Some had already reached the beach, crawling forward and firing their powerful blasting laser cannons. The direction of their attack was meticulously planned, turning the tide of the battle in a way that Joel Drakas had not anticipated. Choosing to advance, the remnants of the bombed Republic transport ships served as makeshift bunkers for launching an assault on the Republic Army's rear. The transport fleet near Raynor Island returned, collaborating with dwarf spider combat machines to initiate an anti-landing operation against the Republic's backlines. Concurrently, 100 Vulture droid fighters took off from a desert island, marking the full engagement of the Confederation of Independent Systems Air Force. These professional fighters easily outmatched the Wookiees' Thoppers, which were limited to reconnaissance A and D fire support roles. On the frontal battlefield, 20,000 droids of various models surged out of the trenches, aggressively attacking the Republic forces. The beach, an ideal landing site under normal circumstances, became a death trap without immediate expansion of the beachhead by the Republic forces. The lack of cover transformed the area into a perilous zone. Joel Drakas, witnessing the chaotic battlefield through a hologram, was overwhelmed with despair. His previous defeat in swordsmanship and strength at the Kyle industrial platform was now compounded by a humiliating defeat in command. The sight of a figure in a black combat uniform, wielding a yellow lightsaber, ignited a furious rage within him. Drakas, consumed by anger and vengeance, failed to notice his drift towards the dark side of the Force. Ignoring the pleas of his advisors to prioritize troop safety, Drakas, blinded by rage, executed a dissenting officer and charged into the front line with his lightsaber. Amidst the barrage of enemy fire, he felt an unprecedented surge of power, effortlessly predicting and deflecting attacks. He carved through the droid army with ease, dismantling every robot in his path. Meanwhile, the 1,000 clone soldiers accompanying Drakas capitalized on the chaos. While the rest of the Republic forces struggled, and the Wookiees launched futile charges, the clones seized the opportunity to follow Drakas's lead. They expanded their gains, attempting to carve a path through the droid defenses and alleviate the pressure on their forces. Severance Tan, in stark contrast, moved leisurely through the battlefield, seemingly untouched by the surrounding chaos. Her presence was not for battle, but to witness the downfall of a Jedi Knight, capturing the most significant outcome of the conflict. Vol 2, Chapter 572, What's in the Bag? On Lavavalok Island, the communication base station established by the Wookiees finally succumbed to an explosion and flames, marking its end. The remaining dwarf spider combat machines, in a desperate attempt to evade the relentless pursuit of the Wookiee defenders, leaped from the cliff, tumbling into the sea below. This was the last of the base stations. Just 10 minutes prior, Chidri Island had fallen into the clutches of the robot army. Despite being outnumbered 5-1 and facing the formidable firepower of the OG-9 homing spider droids, the valiant Wookiees fought fiercely with their laser crossbows. They managed to leave behind at least 8,000 robot carcasses before the island was overtaken and the communication base station destroyed. With the annihilation of all 5 communication base stations, the small fleet of the Confederation of Independent Systems in orbit wasted no time in deploying electronic interference, severing all forms of communication between the Republic forces scattered across the Alaris satellite. The Republic troops found themselves plunged into an era where commands could only travel as far as one's voice could carry, a mere 10 meters at most amidst the cacophony of artillery fire. Under normal circumstances, the Republic Army could have swiftly established temporary communication bases to rectify the situation. However, with the main force besieged on this desolate island, they were rendered incapable of coordinating any form of response. They were, for all intents and purposes, lambs awaiting slaughter. When Joel Drakas caught sight of Severance Tan wielding a yellow lightsaber amidst the robot horde, his fury knew no bounds. Ignited by rage, he unleashed a flurry of swift lightsaber strikes, deflecting over 10 explosive energy beams back at the robots, decimating more than a dozen of them. Seizing the moment, he charged at Tan with murderous intent. "Where is the Sith?" Joel Drakas demanded, his voice thunderous. Severance Tan responded with a cold smile. "You mean that lazy excuse for a Sith? Why seek her? If you're looking for the one who decimated your forces, you're talking to her." She brandished her yellow lightsaber provocatively. "See, I command this army. Defeat me, and perhaps you'll stand a chance." Joel, consumed by rage and a burgeoning sense of power, believed he could vanquish any foe. Yet Severance Tan parried his attacks with disconcerting ease, barely exerting herself, making Joel's efforts seem futile. This scenario might remind some of a childhood experience, where a seemingly underachieving peer, who appeared to invest more time in play than study, would unexpectedly outperform everyone academically, leaving others in awe. Such was the case with a neighbor of Master Jing during his elementary school years. Despite coming from a modest city, this individual went on to achieve great success, securing a position at the Institute of Applied Physics Chinese Academy of Sciences and marrying a beautiful Singaporean woman, albeit with the minor setback of baldness. This story illustrates that true genius is not only rare, but often underestimated, much like Severance Tan, a once-in-a-century prodigy. During her time at Keith Military Academy, she had already distinguished herself as the top student. Her prowess wasn't limited to academic achievements. She outperformed the Academy's teachers and instructors in mock tests, showcasing her exceptional skills in various aspects, including her mastery of the Force. Initially self-taught, her abilities had significantly improved after a few months of training under Tang Xiao. Now she stood unmatched, even by Jedi like Joel Drakas, who had over a decade of experience in the Jedi Order. Is this what a Jedi Knight amounts to? Ha! Severance Tan taunted without any urgency to defeat Drakas. Look at you. On the Kyle Industrial Platform, you not only failed your mission, but also brought disaster upon the entire Republic Army and your Wookiee allies. I should recommend you for a Confederation of Independent Systems medal. Joel Drakas, driven by rage and desperation, launched into a frenzied attack, paying no heed to anything else. Severance Tan's laughter echoed, finding delight in the sight of her enemy's downfall. She took pleasure in witnessing the agony of defeat in her opponents, mocking their futile struggles against the cruel hand of fate. "He's fallen? Ha ha!" A sinister laugh sounded from behind. Darth Lilim approached, her hand gripping a blood-red lightsaber. The sight of her triggered a visible darkening in the force around Drakas, his blue lightsaber now streaked with blood red. "What do you intend to do?" Severance Tan inquired, though she made no move to intervene, finding satisfaction in Drakas's descent into darkness. Without hesitation, Darth Lilim engaged, effortlessly parrying Drakas's lightsaber before swiftly severing his arm with a precise strike. "You are too weak. Embrace the darkness. Serve my master, and you will discover true power," she proclaimed. Despite his grievous injury, Joel Drakas stood, wielding his lightsaber in his remaining arm, and resumed his relentless assault. Darth Lilim easily deflected his attacks, severing his other arm with a swift cut. "You fail because the Jedi Order conceals the path to true strength. They prioritize their status over power, preventing the rise of the truly strong. Join me, and you will wield real power." "No, I just want to kill you." Drakas's eyes blazed with hatred. Even after losing both arms, he attempted to attack, resorting to biting. With a flash of her lightsaber, Darth Lilim severed one of his legs. "Submit! You can have everything!" she exclaimed, tears of blood streaming down her face. Joel Drakas, now laughing maniacally, refused. Another swift motion of Lilim's lightsaber removed his remaining leg. "I demand your surrender. Can't you see my superiority? Surrender, and all will be yours." Darth Lilim's voice was tinged with hysteria. Drakas, now limbless, crawled towards her. Just as Darth Lilim anticipated his surrender, he bit at her feet, whispering, "I will kill you." With a final, condescending thrust, Darth Lilim pierced Drakas's body. Her face, marred by blood and tears, betrayed no realization of her actions. Why? I am stronger than you. You've succumbed to darkness. Why?" Her scream of anguish echoed, a testament to her incomprehension and despair. Darth Lilim's screams echoed wildly as she descended into near madness, her lightsaber slashing through the air, inadvertently cutting down several robots in her frenzy. Eventually, her strength failed her, and she collapsed to the ground, her voice reduced to a haunting murmur. Why? Standing over her, Severance Tan looked down with a sneer, muttering disdainfully in the language of the Dawn Planet, "Foolish." She then hoisted the limp form of Adela Cadis onto her shoulders and made her way towards the base. Before departing, she approached a B-1 battle droid, specifically a captain model, and commanded, "Come on, stay alive." The droid promptly saluted, responding, "Roger, Roger." The battlefield was a chaotic whirlwind of destruction, with the Republic's positions being systematically dismantled, dividing the area into more than 10 isolated zones. In each zone, a besieged Republic force fought back with desperation. The conflict raged on for another 2 hours until the last echoes of battle faded away on the desert island, marking the end of the confrontation on the satellite of Aralis. With the main forces of the Wookiees and the Republic decimated, neither had the strength to maintain the island chain's defenses. The remaining 3 islands fell one after another, leaving the satellite of Aralis under the control of the Confederation of Independent Systems. The seizure of the extractor's research facility was a significant victory, granting them access to the prototype's unlocking password and a wealth of experimental data on the extractor. This secret weapon project, once the pride of the Galactic Republic, had now fallen into the hands of Severance Tan. With the password in her possession, she made her way to one of the Diamond-class transport cruisers. Upon entering the password, the engines of the 3 extractor prototypes roared to life, signaling a new era of power for the Confederation of Independent Systems. Vol 2, Chapter 573, Choice. The supermatter engine is running smoothly. Anti-gravity component activated. The radar system is online. Deflector shield cycle completed. Calibration of the Kyber crystal focusing system is complete. In the spacious hangar platform, dozens of technicians busily operated their computer terminals as the 3 massive extractor tanks parked nearby completed their startup sequence. Severance Tan surveyed the imposing tanks and inquired, "Are these behemoths ready for actual combat?" To be perfectly honest, I'm not entirely sure. The technology behind these machines defies the physics I'm familiar with. "The properties of the Kyber crystal alone are astonishing," replied the lead Solarian engineer, his words tumbling out in a rapid-fire manner. "And what of the Wookiee scientists we recently captured?" Severance Tan pressed. The Solarian engineer gestured towards another area, engaging in a flurry of technical discussion with a group of human scientists. The barrage of specialized terminology left Tan, despite her own genius intellect, feeling out of her depth and acutely aware of the specialization within the field of science. Approaching the indicated location, Tan observed an office repurposed as a makeshift prison. Inside, 5 Wookiee scientists, clad in white coats and glasses, were confined behind a laser fence, their expressions defiant and uninterested in dialogue. Tan signaled for the B-1 combat robot beside her to deactivate the laser fence and address the Wookiee scientists. "Share everything you know about the extractors, and I can offer you." Before she could finish her proposition, the Wookiees, who had seemed more like gentle giants, roared and charged at her. In an instant, Tan's yellow lightsaber was drawn, and with swift precision, she neutralized the Wookiee scientists in a single confrontation. Sheathing her lightsaber, Tan approached the Salarian engineer and declared, "There's no need for further discussion. Open the hangar platform for a test fire, and then we'll proceed." The Salarian engineer glanced at the bodies now lying on the floor, signaled for a cleaning robot to attend to them, and hesitantly said, "The data has been transmitted back to the Dawn planet, but it's advisable to bring these prototypes back for further analysis. I wouldn't recommend deploying them in actual combat just yet. Based on the performance of these machines, I'll decide our next course of action." "Let's begin," Tan insisted. Without further objection, the Salarian engineer ordered the hangar platform to be opened and directed the technicians to position the 3 extractors at the exit, making final adjustments. As the technicians initiated the sequence, the red sphere at the core of each extractor reacted, emitting a growing, dazzling green light that intensified and converged into a single point before launching instantaneously. Their target was the largest island in the Wookiee Island Chain defense line, home to the main building of the Extractor Project Research Institute on Lavavalok Island, known for its formidable defensive capabilities. However, the moment the 3 beams of green light from the extractors struck the building, it disintegrated, leaving behind 3 massive holes over 10 meters in diameter. The surrounding structure was scorched, molten metal poured down like rain, and a catastrophic collapse followed, reducing the building to rubble. Witnessing the devastating power of the extractors, Severance Tan smirked with satisfaction. Meanwhile, the all-out war between the Confederation of Independent Systems and the Galactic Republic was escalating, with both factions deploying their strategic plans. In 22 BBY, on June 1st, a portion of the clone army, having recuperated from their engagement on the Geonosian planet San, was at peak physical and mental condition. The Galactic Republic Strategic Command, seizing the opportunity, decided to launch a counteroffensive targeting a remote mining planet, Atrakan, marking the beginning of their renewed campaign. The clone army, numbering 10,000, made its landing on Atrakan, a planet known for its inhospitable conditions due to a toxic atmosphere. Despite this, several colonies had been established, housing around 1 million inhabitants, most of whom were miners. The sudden attack on Atrakan by the Galactic Republic took everyone by surprise, including Shu Mai, the chairperson of the planet's leading industrial guild. Without hesitation, she dispatched a robot army to counter the attack, leading to intense skirmishes across the planet's ravines and pits. Simultaneously, the Confederation of Independent Systems, under General Grievous's command, launched a swift assault on the planet Exca. Within 15 hours, they had overwhelmed the local defense forces and seized complete control of the planet. On June 3rd, stationed in the Tyon sector, Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker stumbled upon a mysterious Confederate battle group. This group, comprising 6 Rukrius-class battleships, exhibited unusual movements. Utilizing their skills and intuition, the duo tracked the fleet to its destination, the remote planet of Renvar. They were puzzled by the significant interest in such a seemingly insignificant planet and promptly reported their findings to the Republic Strategic Command. However, they were advised to disengage, as Renvar was deemed of no strategic importance. Meanwhile, in the Endor galaxy on the Dawn planet, Tang Xiao was engaged in a holographic conversation with Count Dooku. Dooku, with a graceful bow, expressed his admiration for the bravery and skill of Tang Xiao's forces, acknowledging their contribution to the Confederation's strategic advantage. However, Tang Xiao was unimpressed, pointing out the heavy losses his fleet had suffered and Dooku's lack of support during their time of need. Count Dooku, understanding the gravity of the situation, offered compensation. He promised the allegiance of the Grand People from the Golden Rock planet, along with the future support of 10 Divinity-class destroyers and 50 Generosity-class communication frigates. He also extended an invitation to Tang Xiao for the maiden voyage of a new super battleship. Tang Xiao, while acknowledging the gesture, remained skeptical. He emphasized that true power and ideals should not depend on the charity of others, but should be firmly in one's own hands. His response hinted at a deeper understanding of the conflict at hand, leaving even Count Dooku momentarily taken aback. Despite the heavy losses, Tang Xiao expressed his willingness to continue fighting for their cause, questioning only the worthiness of their sacrifices. Count Dooku, pleased with Tang Xiao's resolve, looked forward to celebrating their eventual victory together. He mentioned his current engagement in the battle for Renvar and promised to visit Tang Xiao in person once the situation was resolved. Tang Xiao bowed once more to Tang Xiao, who returned the gesture, concluding their communication. Lunval planet. I recall it being quite remote, Tang Xiao mused, his brow furrowing in thought. Why would Count Dooku personally visit such a place? Wait a moment. A realization struck him, causing a slight shock. The planet of Renval. If I remember correctly, it houses a ruin. Yes, now I remember. It's the mausoleum of the ancient Sith Lord, Ulic Qel-Droma. No wonder Dooku vanished after the war commenced. He's been excavating the ruins of the ancient Sith Empire in secret. Although initially frustrated, Tang Xiao soon found solace in the vastness of the galaxy. Understanding the plot didn't guarantee control over every event. After all, he himself had abandoned the responsibilities of the Fourth Civilization at the war's outset to unearth Lucien Del Rey's tomb. Reflecting on Lucien Del Rey, Tang Xiao glanced at the wake-up list he had been reviewing. The message from Count Dooku had interrupted his deliberation over a crucial decision. Despite feeling somewhat overwhelmed due to the lack of leverage at his disposal, he was confident that it was only a matter of time before Lucien Del Rey's soul would yield to him. Consequently, the exploration and study of Force technology within the Jedi Covenant's temple on the Dre 2 satellite were imminent. Notably, a 20-meter-tall robot guard, powered by the Force, was already stationed at the research center on Cavebill, a planet allocated to the Solarians. Tang Xiao recalled that Count Dooku's expedition to Renval was in pursuit of a piece of Force technology, undoubtedly originating from Darth Sidious. In the Star Wars universe, the Force was paramount, rendering conventional physics insignificant in comparison. The Force's capabilities were vast, offering immortality, control over time, the creation of life, and foresight, among others. These formidable powers stemmed from the original Force, making the technologies developed from it exceedingly potent. Darth Sidious was certainly cognizant of this fact. The Clone Wars marked not an end, but a beginning. Tang Xiao was acutely aware of this reality. Although he remained behind the scenes for now, a direct confrontation with Darth Sidious, who wielded control over the Galactic Republic and later the Galactic Empire, was inevitable. To stand a chance, Tang Xiao knew he must harness such supernatural powers. Thus, delving into Force technology research was essential. Within the vast database of the Glory Mothership, there existed knowledge of similar powers, such as those from Starcraft and Mass Effect. Tang Xiao pondered how these powers could intersect with the Force within this universe. His finger hovered over the name of a legendary figure before decisively pressing down. This was a gamble, as he currently lacked significant bargaining chips. This character was not human, but belonged to a formidable race. Tang Xiao's experience with awakening the Solarians taught him that negotiating with an alien character required addressing the survival and prosperity of their race. This approach differed from dealing with human characters, where shared humanity laid the groundwork for discussions centered around values and interests. For aliens, the conversation had to prioritize the race's future, relegating personal interests to a secondary concern. This transaction, therefore, necessitated a different strategy. Tang Xiao was not the type to be easily satisfied with just a competent team, a favorable environment, and advantageous conditions. He understood that the stakes of the transactions he was considering were at least of a planetary scale. As he pondered the offers he could make, he made a decisive choice. It wasn't that he hadn't considered opting for a more manageable ally. Indeed, he had been on the verge of selecting a less formidable partner before receiving a communication from Count Dooku. However, learning that Dooku was excavating the tomb of an ancient Sith Lord solidified his resolve. Tang Xiao knew that to defeat Darth Sidious, incremental steps wouldn't suffice. For ultimate victory, he was prepared to pay any price. With his decision made, data scrolled through his mind, accelerating his heartbeat despite his deep mastery of the dark side of the Force. His gaze landed on a profile, and in the race column, a long string of letters caught his attention. Protoss, from Starcraft. This wasn't just any Protoss character. He was relatively unknown, more of a legend than a prominent figure. Yet, from Tang Xiao's perspective, the mere mention of the Protoss was enough to ensure a legendary status. Despite the legendary level being marked with several question marks, Tang Xiao decided not to awaken this being directly from legend. Instead, he believed it would be more prudent to start with this particular individual. This person seemed to perfectly match his current requirements. Compared to attempting to enlist someone of Archbishop Artanis' stature directly, this individual might be more inclined to accept his terms. As Tang Xiao contemplated his next moves, he couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and apprehension. The path he was about to embark on was fraught with danger and uncertainty, but the potential rewards were too great to ignore. With the fate of the galaxy hanging in the balance, he knew that bold actions were necessary. He was ready to extend an offer to this legendary Protoss, hoping that together they could forge a new destiny. Vol 2, Chapter 574, The Perfect Race. Tang Xiao had been waiting in his office for quite some time, growing increasingly impatient as the individual he was expecting had yet to arrive. He finally voiced his concern. "Master, what's the status with the awakened individual?" "The person in question is still at the medical center. I'll connect you to the medical center's communication immediately," came the reply. A few moments later, the director of the medical center's voice filled the room. "My apologies, Lord Governor. The individual, he insisted on grooming himself before making an appearance. Initially, he was reluctant to undergo a medical examination by our staff, agreeing only to be assessed by medical robots." "He's been there for over an hour, hasn't he?" Tang Xiao asked, massaging his temples in frustration. "Yes, that's correct," the chief doctor confirmed, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Ah, sir, you've emerged at last. How are you feeling? My apologies for the oversight. I'm not familiar with your race and had to rely solely on database information to make assessments." There was a pause, filled only by the chief doctor's mutterings, as the other party remained silent. Tang Xiao, however, had anticipated this scenario. He straightened his attire, returned to his desk, and sat with an air of formality. Shortly after, a voice resonated in his mind. "May I enter, Mr. Main Governor?" The voice was refined and somewhat soft, suggesting a blend of elegance and masculinity. Tang Xiao couldn't help but envision a figure of grace and poise. However, recalling the respectful demeanor of the Xingling, this mental image quickly dissipated. "Please come in," Tang Xiao responded. The office door swung open, revealing a figure from the Protoss race. The Protoss are a fascinating and formidable species, known for their delicate, scale-covered skin and pupilless eyes that emit a soft glow. They possess slender waists, broad chests and shoulders, standing tall and straight. Their legs feature an anti-joint structure, granting them exceptional jumping capabilities and the ability to reach heights of up to 3 meters when fully extended, though they typically fold the second and third joints of their legs. Protoss derive energy through photosynthesis, with a spectrum range far exceeding that of ordinary plants, allowing them to also draw power from magnetic fields. They can absorb the minimal water they require directly through their skin, eliminating the need for foraging. Typically, a Protoss can live for over 1,000 years. Perhaps their most remarkable feature is the nerve clusters that sprout from the coronal bones atop their heads. While many Protoss choose to braid these clusters, their primary function is telepathy. Lacking the need for oral communication or sustenance, they communicate telepathically, making them virtually perfect beings. It's noteworthy that Protoss society once experimented with a collective telepathic network known as the Way of Kara, enabling instant thought sharing among its members. However, this societal structure eventually collapsed during a war. The Protoss standing before Tang Xiao was nearly 2.6 meters tall, his slender frame adorned in a lavish white robe and cape, accentuated with gold trimmings. A golden ring encircled his back, and a high crown sat atop his head. His attire alone explained the lengthy grooming session. Beneath the hood was a face that embodied soft lines graced his features, marking him as a figure of neutrality even among the Protoss. The tribe leader, Zekrath, greets you, powerful and dark lord, the voice of the Protoss echoed in Tang Xiao's mind. However, Tang Xiao merely nodded slightly, displaying a lack of respect. Zakaras, a member of the Twilight Council and leader of the Sherak tribe, it pleases me to see you've accepted my request and have chosen to meet. Yet, I'm intrigued. How can you perceive the power within me? Tang Xiao's interest was piqued. His dark side force was so subtle that even a top powerhouse like Count Dooku couldn't detect it. How then did this Protoss become aware of it? I can see many things, including the essence of your dark power. I find your power distasteful. Were it Phoenix here, he would have drawn his blade against you, but that's precisely why you sought me out, isn't it? Zakaras communicated directly into Tang Xiao's mind. In that case, why accept the invitation? Tang Xiao asked, a slight smile playing on his lips. I saw the dream you wove for us. Such illusions hold no sway over a Protoss, but... Zakaras extended his slender fingers, and a phantom of the starry sky materialized between them. I saw the truth hidden beneath that deceptive veneer, survival. He moved slowly towards the window, gazing out at the emerald dawn planet and the colossal star ring orbiting it, and continued, though my memories are hazy, the pain of losing my home and the bitterness of displacement are feelings I know all too well. This understanding of survival is precisely what the Twilight Council stands for. We've set aside our pride to battle the apocalypse. We've forsaken the light without shunning the darkness. Twilight is our hue, all in the name of survival. It seems you've given this considerable thought, Tang Xiao observed. This is both an end and a beginning. It is my duty to restore the glory of the Protoss, even if it means collaborating with someone like you, Zakaras stated. You certainly have a way with words, Xerax. It appears the pride of the Protoss runs deep in your soul. Aren't you afraid I might kill you? Tang Xiao's smile turned cold. I'm aware you could potentially inform the other hibernating Protoss of your situation through telepathy, but that's irrelevant. Should it come to it, I'm prepared to erase the Protoss entirely. His tone grew stern. Survival is what I seek as well. However, should the existence of your kind pose a threat to my own, I am willing to take any measures necessary. Attachment 1 of the Easter Egg Chapter. Vol 2, Chapter 575, Imperfect Agreement. I'm not going to hide my distaste for your power, but I'm also not going to refuse your cooperation. I'm not going to be your friend, but I'm also not going to be your enemy, Zekras stated. In that case, there's no need for pleasantries between us. Perhaps I will require your strength in the future. For now, I need your assistance with a task. Once completed, I will begin the revival of the Protoss, starting with the Sherak tribe you lead, Tang Xiao responded coolly. I believe this is a suitable arrangement. Perhaps in the future, we will find a foundation for continued cooperation, Zekras remarked. Tang Xiao nodded, then with a slight raise of his hand, a teacup beside him levitated and positioned itself in front of him. With a flick of his fingers, the teacup silently shattered into several pieces, orbiting his hand like satellites. Subsequently, all the fragments flew into the trash can. What do you think of this power? Tang Xiao inquired. Psionic energy, Zekras replied without surprise. There are some differences, but the essence is exactly the same. It's triggered through the mind and will, creating supernatural phenomena. What astonishes me is that you, as a human, possess a level of psionic power comparable to that of high-level Templars. In this universe, this kind of power is known as the Force. The Force is divided into the light side and the dark side, based on different practices and uses. The light side promotes order and requires control over one's emotions, while the dark side encourages chaos, indulging the user's desires. Tang Xiao explained the distinction between the light and dark sides of the Force. Using psionic energy through emotional control is indeed effective. You'll also find that it's a method of mind control, Zekris noted. The Protoss use psionic energy in various ways, such as the Way of Kara and the Void. My goal is to study and utilize the Force. I need to become stronger and master Force technology, Tang Xiao declared. I've recently discovered an ancient temple containing Force technology from ancient wars, and I intend to make that technology accessible. You are already powerful, and this power will ensure your longevity. Why do you continue to seek more? Zekris questioned. Because my enemy is far more formidable than you can imagine. Moreover, although I practice the dark side of the Force, I understand that neither darkness nor light represents the ultimate path. I refuse to suppress myself or become a slave to my desires, Tang Xiao stated solemnly. Having mastery over both powers is rare. To my knowledge, only the great Twilight Messiah Tassadar has achieved this, and he is long gone. Even if he were alive, I doubt he would assist you, as you would likely use such power to spread war across the universe, Zekris replied. You should realize that even without me, war has already engulfed the entire galaxy, Tang Xiao countered. I am neither knowledgeable nor concerned about this war, dark and powerful lord, for that is not the crux of the matter, Zekris said, his tone indicating a desire to end the conversation. He bowed slightly and added, Please forgive me. I will take some rest and then proceed to awaken some of my clansmen. I will assist you in discovering and studying that temple. Thus, a partnership can be established. After Zekris departed, Tang Xiao snorted coldly, expressing his dissatisfaction. The inherent pride of the Protoss made the conversation rather unpleasant, even with Zekris, who he had thought would be more amenable. The attitude of, you help me, I help you, made it clear that Zekris preferred to keep their civilizations at arm's length. This stance left Tang Xiao feeling somewhat irked. The prospect of allying with the Protoss left Tang Xiao feeling uneasy. Despite Zakara's assurances that they would not be enemies on the surface, the unpredictable nature of the Protoss, with their history of betrayal, loomed large. The Protoss, after all, had once turned against the Zelnen, Aga, the very beings they had revered as gods, after being guided towards a rapid advancement of their civilization. From the outset, the Protoss were not an easy race to coexist with. Their near-perfect existence fostered a superiority complex, viewing other races as insignificant. This arrogance was not unfounded, given their unparalleled psionic powers and the advanced foundation of their civilization, deeply rooted in the Kaidaran crystals. These crystals bore a striking resemblance to the symbiotic relationship between the Force and Kyber crystals, making the Protoss the ideal candidates for studying both. Tang Xiao's decision to awaken the Protoss was also influenced by their inherent disdain for beings like Darth Sidious. The Protoss, with their penchant for purity and order, would undoubtedly find Sidious's methods repugnant. Zakaris had put it succinctly. Upon meeting, they would not hesitate to draw their blades. This decisiveness was characteristic of the Sherak tribe, a faction within the Protoss known for their scholarly pursuits and guardianship of the Xel'Naga ruins. Their dedication to research and academia made them the custodians of their people's history and legacy. In essence, the Protoss's formidable psionic abilities, coupled with their civilization's reliance on Kaidaran crystals, positioned them as the preeminent scholars of the Force and Kyber crystals. Their historical role as the protectors of the Xel'Naga's legacy only underscored their suitability for this task. Tang Xiao's strategy to involve the Protoss was a calculated move, banking on their inherent aversion to figures like Darth Sidious and their unmatched capabilities in the realms of the Force and Kyber crystal research. Vol 2, Chapter 576, Dangerous Cooperation. As part of the agreement, Tang Xiao took on the task of awakening the members of the Sherak clan from their hibernation. There were 20 in total, each a master in their own right. The conditions for the awakening of these Protoss from the Sherak tribe were quite straightforward. They would only awaken if summoned by their own leaders. Otherwise, they would not heed the call of anyone else. Following this, another legendary figure was roused from slumber, Tarim, the guardian of the Sherak tribe's temple. This venerable Protoss had dedicated eons to protecting the secrets of the Sherak tribe and the Zelnaga temple on the planet Shakuras. Now, with their history erased, they found themselves starting anew, with Tarim becoming the guardian of Zakaras. Upon first laying eyes on Tarim, whose gray complexion was marked with many purple spots, Tang Xiao immediately recognized the guardian as a being of legendary stature, someone who, even in his prime, would have required considerable effort to defeat. Tang Xiao provided them with the blueprints for constructing lightsabers and supplied them with kyber crystals, enabling them to forge their own weapons. He then led them to the Dre 2 satellite, where, in just a few days, the framework of a vast space station had been erected. The station, which included an energy supply system among its completed sections, was already operational. Dozens of small, insect-like engineering spacecraft buzzed around tirelessly, and mining operations on the nearby gas giant planet were already underway. Upon arriving at the space station, Zakaras observed the robots bustling about and expressed a keen interest. Intelligent machines, very intriguing. These robots seem to possess souls, not just self-awareness, he remarked, communicating telepathically with Tang Xiao while also engaging with his companions on the same wavelength. They are Geth, Tang Xiao explained. They are allies of mine. Allying with robots could distance you from the natural order of life. They kill without hesitation, as if smashing a stone, Zakaras observed. In order to survive, I'm willing to do whatever it takes, Tang Xiao responded, his tone light yet firm. You keep mentioning the pressure to survive, but what exactly is this pressure? Zakaras inquired, challenging Tang Xiao's perspective. My adversary is a dark overlord poised to dominate the entire galaxy. I'm essentially up against the entire galaxy, Tang Xiao declared, his eyes alight with fervor. Given such odds, I'll resort to any means necessary to ensure survival. Zakaras fell silent, pondering Tang Xiao's words. After a moment he asked, Is there truly no other way to confront this threat? Of course, there's an alternative. If I were to kneel and serve him, perhaps I could live comfortably, Tang Xiao said with a sardonic smile. I, a Protoss, will never submit to anyone, Zakaras stated firmly. Then, it seems we've found our first common ground, Tang Xiao remarked, leading the Protoss to the command center of the space station. At the center of the room, a holographic projection displayed the Dre 2 satellite, with Lucian Dre's tomb and a blurred area marked on it. Is this the temple's location? Tang Xiao casually inquired of a Geth who was nearby. The Geth approached the holographic screen, setting aside the cargo it had been carrying. We've scanned the entire planet, but it's enveloped in an unknown force that our sensors can't penetrate. Following your instructions, we haven't entered the mausoleum's interior. The location has been estimated through preliminary excavations around the perimeter, it explained, highlighting over a dozen points on the hologram. Currently, we have 13 excavation teams conducting cautious excavations to avoid damaging anything. The progress is conservative, but we're ensuring the integrity of the site. Tang Xiao addressed the group, emphasizing the importance of constructing their base. He directed his attention to Zakaras and the others, instructing, grant them authorization, fulfill all their research requirements, and ensure their protection. A Geth unit, its head emitting a beam reminiscent of a flashlight, scanned Zakaras and his colleagues, confirming, scanning complete. They have been registered in our database. We will accommodate their needs. Should there be no further inquiries, we will proceed with our tasks. Understood, that will be all, Tang Xiao affirmed, watching as the Geth resumed its duties. Zakaras, with a sharp eye, remarked, Gestalt thinking? Tang Xiao elaborated. More accurately, it's a distributed network gestalt, meaning each unit can represent the collective. Their existence could spell disaster for the universe, Zakaras observed. I've mentioned before, my concerns lie elsewhere, Tang Xiao responded indifferently, tapping on the table. The Geth here will cater to your requirements. Additionally, I've initiated a Protoss colony on a planet named Sinel with an initial batch of 500 Protoss. However, given the limitations of the Mothership's cloning technology, it will take approximately 20 years for the Protoss embryos to mature. 20 years is a mere moment in time for us. I look forward to a fruitful collaboration, Zakaras replied, nodding slightly. Without further ado, Tang Xiao departed the space station. Given the Protos's millennium-long lifespan, a 20-year wait was insignificant. However, Tang Xiao was aware that the more formidable a life form, the more challenging its growth and reproduction, a universal truth. He chose Sinel, a planet previously used as a prison by the Aru people after their conflict with the Fourth Civilization. Despite its hospitable environment, the planet's lack of valuable minerals deterred advanced civilizations, making it an ideal location for the Protoss. Tang Xiao's caution towards the Protoss even surpassed his wariness of the Geth. Interestingly, Sinel was also home to the Keanthar, a race with basic telepathic abilities but limited intelligence. Tang Xiao was curious about the potential interactions between the Keanthar and the Protoss. He then journeyed to the Dry 2 satellite, entering the tomb of Lucien Del Rey. The spectral figure of the old man emerged from his coffin, confronting Tang Xiao. "Were those robots dispatched by you? You dare to intrude upon my temple without permission. Have you observed the current state of the Milky Way?" Tang Xiao retorted, gesturing towards a holographic TV nearby. Lucien Del Rey fell silent. Attachment 1 of the Easter egg chapter, Geth Spaceship. Vol 2, Chapter 5 and 77, The Lost Man. "How long has it been since my death?" Lucien Del Rey inquired suddenly. "More than 3,000 years have passed since your demise. It's also been over 25,000 years since the Galactic Republic was established," Das Masaya responded. "So why am I still wrestling with this? For me, it's all in the past." Lucien Del Rey sighed, a tone of frustration evident in his voice. He had spent the last few days in his mausoleum, pondering over the news from the Milky Way, lost in thought. "For you, it may be over, but for me, it's just the beginning," Darth Marthael declared with a sense of pride. "I refuse to stand by and watch the galaxy succumb to Darth Sidious. I will fight until the very end. I seek strength. I crave time. I desire eternal life." "Harboring such ambitions brings you perilously close to the dark side," Lucien Del Rey remarked, his gaze drifting away as he spoke with a tone of indifference. "I will take the gauntlet of Little Kleish and unlock your temple. I will resurrect the Jedi Covenant. However, the name Jedi will cease to exist," Darth Marthael announced. "What emerges from your temple will be known as the Twilight Covenant." "May I ask why?" Lucien Del Rey, rather than reacting with anger as Darth Marthael had anticipated, inquired calmly. "Twilight represents the convergence of light and darkness. I have glimpsed the future. The Force will achieve balance. The Jedi Knights and the Sith Lords will fade into oblivion. This signifies both destruction and rebirth. The Force will be elevated in this equilibrium," Darth Marthael explained, his hands spread wide. "I am uncertain of my fate in this grand scheme. I am but a fragment of this monumental process. Perhaps I will be obliterated, and from my remains a new era will be born. But—" His eyes blazed with an intensity that seemed almost incendiary. "I will battle to my last breath." With these words he approached the coffin, his form passing through the spectral figure of Lucien Del Rey, and then he grasped the ancient Sith artifact suspended before him, the Gauntlet of Little Kleish. The gauntlet unleashed a formidable surge of dark side origin force, which merged seamlessly with Darth Marthael's own dark energies. The combined power was beyond imagination, conjuring a formidable dark storm around them. This immense power invigorated Darth Marthael, filling him with a sense of omnipotence. The thrill of absolute control washed over him, a sensation so potent it made him feel as though he could dominate the entire universe. His expression, one of wild fervor, Darth Marthael slowly fitted the glove onto his left wrist. Closing his eyes, he immersed himself in the sensation of his burgeoning dark side power. When he opened his eyes again, the world around him seemed transformed. He could perceive the passage of time in everything around him. Turning, he noticed Lucien Del Rey still hovering nearby, observing him with a peculiar look. "As I suspected, you have indeed succumbed to the dark side. The moment you aspired for power and eternal life, you were ensnared by darkness," Lucien Del Rey stated softly. "Yet, you made no move to stop me," Darth Marthael retorted with a hint of sarcasm. "Correct, because you must have realized by now that you're incapable of effecting any real change," Lucien Del Rey replied. "Everything here belongs to you. In fact, over the past few days, I've deactivated all the defense systems. Moreover, I'll share with you that on my body's chest, there's a series of numbers, an authorization key. With it, you can also command these 20 Temple Guardian robots, he explained, gesturing towards the 20 pillars in front of them. It seems I owe you my thanks, Darth Marthael chuckled, his laughter tinged with malice. I will fulfill my promise. The Jedi Covenant will rise anew under my guidance, whether through light or darkness. No thanks necessary. Consider it rent, Lucien Del Rey replied, his form beginning to emit a soft golden light. It wasn't blinding, but raw. They're reminiscent of the gentle sun in winter. Darth Marthael immediately sensed that something significant was about to unfold. What do you want to do? He demanded, attempting to wield the power of death against his adversary. However, Lucien Dre's will proved unyielding, entirely beyond his control. Lucien Dre's spectral form transformed into a faint golden light, descending directly into little Kleish's gauntlet. There, it morphed into a golden gem and embedded itself on the back of his hand. Having recently merged with Darth Marthael's power, little Kleish immediately sensed Lucien Dre's soul meandering through the endless void. What are you trying to accomplish, you old fool? You should realize that your meager power stands no chance against me. Your very existence is sustained by my power. Darth Marthael braced himself, sensing Lucien Dre's frail soul. Despite being revived by the force of death, Lucien Dre's soul had weakened over 3,000 years. Against Darth Marthael's formidable and resilient spirit, Lucien's efforts seemed as futile as trying to topple a building with a feather. I merely wish to observe, young Sith Lord, Lucien Dre replied, his voice carrying a hint of amusement. Since your arrival, I've witnessed much. I had always assumed your Jedi Holy Covenant would relentlessly oppose any Sith Lord, never yielding. Darth Marthael expelled Lucien Dre's soul from the gauntlet, his anger subsiding as he recognized Lucien's current impotence. I've encountered countless Siths throughout my life, strong, weak, arrogant, cowardly. But you are the most intriguing, he admitted calmly. I'm eager to see what you can achieve in this galaxy engulfed in darkness, Lucien Dre stated. Then you'd better not attempt any deceit, old man, Darth Marthael retorted sharply. Meanwhile, Adela Caddis was awakened by a child's incessant crying, finding herself surrounded by darkness, with nothing in sight but the familiar sound of weeping. Disoriented, she reached for her lightsaber, only to realize she was dressed in a simple, ordinary dress instead of her usual combat attire. Compelled by the cries, she ventured forward until she encountered a young girl sobbing on the ground. The crying grated on Adela's nerves, and she approached with the intention to scold the child, only to halt in shock upon recognizing the girl as her younger self. Adela stammered, taken aback. Approaching her younger self, she asked sternly, "Why are you crying?" Yet the child remained silent, continuing to weep. "She's lost. Of course she'll cry," an old man's voice interjected. Adela spun around to confront the newcomer, a burly, spirited old man who seemed like he might have been a formidable warrior in his youth. "Who are you? Why are you here?" Adela demanded. "In his soul, there are threads connecting to several individuals, and through them I found you. This is all I can do," the old man explained. "You may call me Old Man Lucien. What do you want? Where are we?" Adela pressed. "This place is your heart," Old Man Lucien replied with a smile. Furious, Adela advanced towards him, but with a wave of his hand, Lucien's form dispersed like smoke, only to reassemble several meters away. He shook his head. "While we're here, let's help this poor little girl find her way." "Make sure you find your way home, okay?" Adela Caddis gazed at the old man before turning her attention to her younger self, nodding slowly in understanding. The old man approached, gently lifting the little girl. As he patted her shoulder, he imparted a piece of wisdom. "Sometimes, the reason you find yourself lost isn't due to the road's roughness or because you're trapped in a maze. Rather, it's because your determination to move forward isn't strong enough." Attachment 1 of the Easter egg chapter, Little Kleish's Gauntlets. Volume 2, Chapter 578, The Next Step. Adela Caddis opened her eyes, feeling a slight wetness on her cheeks. As she wiped it away, she noticed the tears on her palm, clear and colorless, streaming down from the corners of her eyes. Her mind was a blur, struggling to recall the events that led to her emotional state. She remembered feeling a surge of anger over the death of Jedi Commander Joel Drakas, who had been a staunch supporter of the Araris satellite. Beyond that, her memories were muddled, as if her connection to the Force had been disrupted. There was also a dream, its details elusive and forgotten. Surveying her surroundings, Adela realized she was still aboard the flagship, an Apocalypse-class light cruiser. She made her way to the bathroom, shedding her clothes to let the cold water cascade over her skin, smooth and delicate as blue satin. Her gaze fell upon the grotesque spider embedded in her chest, with a white kyber crystal nestled at its center. For a moment, she thought she saw a golden light flicker within the crystal. Standing before the mirror, Adela studied her reflection, a striking blue-skinned woman with an expression of utter indifference. After drying off, she dressed and headed to the bridge. There, she found Severance Tan, clad in a white general's uniform, sitting with his hands clasped, focused on a holographic projection. Beside him stood a tall, imposing robot, its head adorned with a metal mask resembling a beast's skull, fierce eyes glowing beneath. General Grievous, the supreme commander of the Confederation of Independent Systems' vast robotic army and its fleet of warships, addressed Tan. "Your victory on Aralis was commendable, General Tan," he said in a raspy, monotone voice. "But now you propose to raid the Inner Circle? Has a minor triumph made you overconfident?" "I wouldn't have proposed the plan if I wasn't certain of its success," Tan replied calmly. "I refuse to risk the Confederacy's fleet on your reckless scheme," Grievous retorted. "You'll miss the chance to strike at the heart of the Republic," Tan countered. At that moment, another communication interrupted them. Count Dooku appeared in a separate holographic projection, stroking his neatly trimmed white beard. "If that's the case, I support your plan," he declared. Grievous, after a moment's hesitation, agreed to send an elite assault fleet to aid Tan, but insisted on a swift withdrawal once the defense line was breached. "Very well," Tan accepted, ending the communication. He then turned to Adela with a sneer. "If I recall, this is the second time you've been bested by those two inferior Jedi Knights. Is that the extent of your vaunted power? Perhaps I should suggest to the governor that he find a new apprentice and relegate you to my service as a slave. That would be amusing." "It's none of your concern," Adela snapped, her face darkening with anger. "On the contrary, it is my concern. Your failures and apparent weakness force me to reassess the strength and strategy of the Jedi Knights," Tan replied coldly. "The next time I encounter a Jedi Knight, even if it's Master Yoda, I will kill them," Adela declared, barely containing her rage. "There won't be a next time. Don't interfere with my plans. Just watch and appreciate what will be the greatest achievement of my military career," Tan said, his gaze fixed on the holographic star map, where a planet in the heart of the Milky Way was marked in bright red. To the largest industrial center of the Galactic Republic, Planet Quarter, marked beneath with the name Serapin. It was June 9th, 22 BY, when Severance Tan's task force captured the satellite of Araris. The news of the extractor prototype and its related research data was promptly sent back to Dawn. Tang Xiao, gazing at the holographic star map before him, murmured, "Planet Serapin, the pinnacle for a generation of generals, yet also their potential downfall." After a moment of contemplation, he sent a message to Adela Caddis, instructing her to remain vigilant for any Jedi Knights who might intercept them, emphasizing the importance of protecting Severance Tan from any harm. Although Adela Caddis did not respond, Tang Xiao was confident she had received the message and would comply. His trust in her was unwavering, believing she would act exactly as instructed. Concerning the extractor, Tang Xiao's expression turned into a frown as he boarded a shuttle bound for Planet Cave Bill. As the shuttle pierced the atmosphere, a breathtaking view of the ocean planet unfolded below him. Azure seas, scattered islands, and pristine white clouds greeted him, a stark contrast to the steel and flames he was accustomed to. He inhaled deeply, yearning to fill his soul with the essence of nature. Upon arrival, it was evident that on the islands of this limited planet, numerous artificial islands had been constructed. Spacecraft were continuously ascending and descending at the airports scattered across these islands. Tang Xiao disembarked on the largest island, where a bustling scene unfolded before him. The cargo loading and unloading platform was teeming with activity. Gnolls were hard at work, alongside B-1 robots performing manual labor, all under the watchful eyes of the Solarians. Since establishing a cultivation base for the Solarians on planet Cave Bill, their population had exploded thanks to their astonishingly rapid metabolism. In just a decade, their numbers had surged past 1 million. Similarly, the Gnolls, another species known for their quick metabolism and reproductive rate, had thrived under Solarian guidance. Their population had exceeded 2 million, more than sufficient to sustain their species. Consequently, the Solarians had begun implementing sophisticated social management and division of labor strategies, optimizing the productivity and harmony of their rapidly growing society. Vol 2, Chapter 579, Kyber Crystal. Tang Xiao encountered a squad of heavily armed Gnolls escorting a large machine. These Gnolls were clad in combat armor tailored to their size, wielding the newly developed M90 Thor automatic sniper rifles. Given their highly developed visual capabilities, Gnolls were exceptionally suited for roles as scouts, snipers, and pilots. The troops guarding this scientific research facility were thus equipped with sniper rifles. With the population increase, the Solarians had established an elite special force of about 1,000 members, while the Gnolls, organized by the Solarians, formed a formidable force of 100,000, ready for any potential warfare. The Solarians, known for their rapid metabolism and quick reflexes, were ideally suited for scientific research and espionage. Consequently, their presence in the intelligence and scientific research departments of the Fourth Civilization was steadily growing. The collaboration between the two races was becoming increasingly synergistic. Leading the procession were several Solarians in white lab coats, with Professor Modin at the forefront. Before Tang Xiao could initiate a conversation, Professor Modin spoke. The 2 items you've recently provided are of significant research value. We've formed a research team, but we require additional resources and manpower. The force-driven robot doesn't need our immediate attention. I've found individuals more attuned to the force to handle it. However, the extractor represents a crucial research endeavor. According to the information you've shared, this technology could potentially revolutionize particle lance technology, Professor Modin explained. Indeed, the Arroyo Barlow team is already working on a particle lance project, but the extractor's energy focusing issue is pivotal. Kyber crystals appear to be an ideal solution, Professor Modin added. Tang Xiao nodded, acknowledging the rarity of kyber crystals and their unlikely application in constructing large-scale battleships. The outcome of the research might allow us to minimize the use of kyber crystals, but acquiring them remains essential, Professor Modin emphasized. Tang Xiao pondered the situation, visibly concerned about the scarcity of kyber crystals. Professor Modin, unable to tolerate the silence, eagerly shifted the conversation to his current research focus. As a biologist venturing into the realm of the Force, he aimed to unravel the mysteries of this enigmatic power. Although the Mass Effect universe also harbored powers, Professor Modin, attributing the Force to a unique cosmic energy, was not overly surprised by its existence. Tang Xiao realized that the Solarians, with their systematic and materialistic approach, might struggle to grasp the nuances of the Force and other supernatural abilities. In contrast, races like the Protoss and Asari, with their more idealistic perspectives, often achieve deeper insights into the Force. However, Tang Xiao chose not to dampen Professor Modin's enthusiasm. He was already contemplating potential sources for kyber crystals. Interrupting Professor Modin's enthusiastic ramblings, Tang Xiao proposed, given our current predicament, there seems to be only one viable option to acquire sufficient kyber crystals. Please, continue, urged Professor Modin. War and plunder, Tang Xiao declared. Considering our ongoing conflict with the Galactic Republic, I assure you that this campaign will prove fruitful. Professor Modin, pragmatic and direct, saw no reason to hesitate. Since we're already engaged in hostilities with the Republic, utilizing warfare and plunder to secure the necessary experimental materials is a logical course of action. Tang Xiao nodded in agreement, ready to embark on a daring mission to secure the kyber crystals essential for their groundbreaking research. I will arrange this, Professor Modin stated. If possible, the Solarians will also participate in this war. Let's initiate this offensive. This is the decision our council has reached. Moreover, Professor Arroyo, this research has borne fruit. You should see this new type of warship. I'll head to the encrypted communication room first, Tang Xiao announced, making his way deeper into the experimental base. Upon reaching the specialized communication room, equipped with a hyperspace communication amplifier and a signal encryption device, Tang Xiao initiated a secret communication. The projection displayed a figure resembling a spider, Admiral Trench. Tang Xiao noticed an additional medal adorning the chest of Trench's uniform. It was the Nebula Medal, a prestigious honor awarded by the Confederate Army of Independent Systems, likely in recognition of his exemplary performance in the Battle of Geonosis. "What are your orders, Lord Governor?" Admiral Trench inquired, his mouth limbs twitching. "If I recall correctly, the original plan was for you to attack the planet Christopher Sis once the war commenced. Has the Confederacy's High Command issued any new directives?" Tang Xiao inquired. "Offensive on the planet Christopher Sis has been postponed," Admiral Trench replied, his voice tinged with regret. "My fleet suffered significant losses on Geonosis and requires additional time to replenish." "I am determined to take this planet," Tang Xiao stated firmly. "While I am eager to support your strategy," Admiral Trench hesitated, "capturing this planet, given its distance from the Dawn planet, introduces uncertainties. Christopher Sis is not far from Tatooine, which places it within my reach," Tang Xiao countered confidently. "This endeavor necessitates the cooperation of Passel Argent," Admiral Trench mused, stroking his limbs. "If you prefer to keep this operation under wraps, I do have a strategy." After finalizing their negotiation, Tang Xiao contacted Lin Nanyi, who was in command of Fleet B, to relay the plan before exiting the encrypted communication room. The planet Christopher Sis was his target. Predominantly composed of crystals, it boasted countless mines harboring a variety of crystals, including the galaxy's most mysterious and rarest, the Kyber crystal. As a primary source of Kyber crystals in the Milky Way, Christopher Sis's remote location and proximity to Hutt space made it challenging to manage and defend. Consequently, it had attracted the attention of the Confederation of Independent Galaxies. Tang Xiao, too, had set his sights on this valuable planet. Vol 2, Chapter 580, The Gambler's Mentality. Attacking the planet of Christophsis is undoubtedly a complex endeavor. The planet, with its diameter of 9,465 kilometers, boasts a striking blue-green crystal composition. It stands as one of the most economically advanced planets in the Outer Ring star region, strategically located near the Corellian trade route, close to Hutt space, and adjacent to Tatooine, a key transportation hub at the edge of Hutt space. Its proximity to Rhodia further enhances its strategic importance. Christophsis, a planet rich in almost inexhaustible crystal resources, has been highly valued since its discovery. Its significance was further underscored 600 years ago when nobles from Tapasi, a commercial center in the Milky Way's inner circle, invested heavily to install a moon with a gravitational pull strong enough to prevent asteroid impacts, along with a sophisticated defense system. This investment has yielded astronomical financial returns, thanks to the planet's vast resource reserves. The promise of employment opportunities has attracted a wave of immigrants, leading to a boom in mining and trading companies. Despite its somewhat remote location from the Corellian trade route, the planet's proximity to Tatooine has fostered a thriving smuggling industry. Thousands of smugglers ferry illegally mined crystals between Christophsis and Tatooine, feeding the black market and distributing these goods to the galaxy's darkest corners. Many criminal organizations recruit force-sensitive individuals, overlooked by the Jedi Order, to wield low-quality lightsabers crafted from black market Kyber crystals. However, these lightsabers are more for show. In real confrontations, these individuals quickly discard them in favor of blasters, proclaiming, "Sir, times have changed." The population of Christophsis is predominantly human, making up about 68%, with dark skin adapted to the planet's unique climate and light. Many decorate themselves with crystals on their foreheads or bodies. Rhodians, known for their bounty hunting skills, constitute about 13% of the population, while the Croydons, a strong, beast-like race, account for another 11% and are mostly employed as mercenaries. With a total population of 35 billion, Christophsis's demographic strength is formidable, being 30 times that of the entire Fourth Civilization's directly controlled population. Despite lacking a highly developed industrial system, Christophsis's economic wealth and massive population enable it to hire a substantial force of mercenaries and bounty hunters, making it a force to be reckoned with. Admiral Trench, recognizing the strategic value of Christophsis, traveled to Mercana, a core planet of the Corporate Alliance. There, he met with Pasel Argent of Curiva, the chairman of the Corporate Alliance, and proposed, "We should attack planet Christophsis. It holds high value, but it will not be easily conquered. We need a solid plan if we are to succeed." Pasel Argent responded cautiously, "Indeed, conquering Christophsis will require significant effort. Do you have a viable strategy?" Admiral Trench, stroking the chelicera at the corner of his mouth, admitted, "A concrete plan to win? No. But this is our only chance. The Republic has just suffered a defeat. Their strength is diminished. This is our opportunity." Pasel Argent nodded thoughtfully as Admiral Trench spoke again. "The Rhodians only value money, not people. However, the Croydons have a way with them. We can still seek more allies. I recall, the Corporate Alliance and the Retail Industry Alliance have a strong partnership." "The Croydons, you're referring to the Retail Union, correct?" "Indeed, they maintain a solid relationship with the Croydons. However, our current predicament involves a shortage of warships. The fleet designated for the assault on the planet Christopher Sis has suffered significant losses on the planet Onassis. I'm not assigning blame, but we're now facing a shortage of warships for any large-scale operation until the new batch is read." "Why?" Gint explained. Admiral Trench placed a memory card on the table and slid it across, speaking slowly. "In business, there's no such thing as a guaranteed profit, but without taking risks, there's no chance of earning. I've heard the Semons possess a fleet of battleships as well." After he left, Pasel Argent accessed the memory card and reviewed a lengthy list of financial transactions related to the planet Christopher Sis. The figures were astonishing, showcasing the planet's wealth. The sight of the numerous zeros in the data sparked a glint of ambition in Argent's eyes. He pressed the communication button and asked urgently, "Tina Ray King, how many fleets do we currently have at our disposal?" The holographic projection displayed a red-skinned female Kurawa, adorned in a blue robe with a bird's tongue atop her head. "I'm afraid we don't have any fleets left after the Lanuos offensive and the fierce resistance from the bosses," she replied. "And what are our chances if we decide to attack the planet Christopher Sis?" Pasel Argent inquired. "It's impossible," Tina Ray King stated bluntly. Unwilling to give up, Pasel Argent pondered for a moment before responding. "Then, head to the Semirs. They might have a fleet we can use. Tell them I have a lucrative opportunity. Also, arrange a meeting with the Retail Industry Alliance for me. I'll handle the negotiations personally." Easter egg chapter attachments. 1. Planet Christopher Sis, a crystal-rich planet known for its vast wealth and strategic importance. 2. Tina Ray King, assistant to Pasel Argent. Despite her appearance, which might seem unusual to outsiders, she is considered a beauty among the Kuriwa people. Vol 2, Chapter 581, Indebtedness. Admiral Trench shared the details of his conversation with Pasel Argent, eliciting a thoughtful expression from Tang Xiao. After the briefing, Tang Xiao, with a decisive tone, confirmed, "Okay, let's continue as planned." He then turned off the communication device and sank into deep contemplation on the sofa. Standing behind him, Moon Semed Tang, the Minister of Economy for the Fourth Civilization, spoke with a respectful demeanor. "Actually, Admiral Trench's plan presents us with a significant opportunity." "Explain," Tang Xiao prompted. Semed Tang, with a sneer, began. "Trench has relayed the economic data of the Christopher Sis planet, discovered by our Solarian spies, to Pasel Argent. Given the Kuriva people's notorious greed, Pasel Argent will undoubtedly be tempted. However, his insatiable greed will also make the Enterprise Alliance vulnerable, as they plan to attack from 5 different directions simultaneously. The Bosa people's recent lessons should serve as a warning." He continued, "Aware of the Enterprise Alliance's current limitations in deploying more warships, Trench suggested they seek assistance from the Semirs, which could potentially bring additional revenue to the Semirs." Trench, being a military general, lacks a broader perspective on political and economic matters. This situation could be a golden opportunity for us, Tang added. If we can leverage this to force the Enterprise Alliance into submission, it would greatly benefit the mutual aid alliance we've established. And what do you propose? Tang Xiao inquired. Tang revealed a cunning smile. Let's involve Pascal Argent and direct him to San Hill, the co-chairman of the Interstellar Banking Association. Meanwhile, at the Interstellar Banking Association, Thornhill, the co-chairman, greeted Pascal Argent with a sly smile. Our circumstances differ from yours, dear Mr. Pascal Argent. The Republic has its sights set on the planet Makito, with their fleet already assembled nearby. While you expand aggressively, Miss Shelby and I must focus on defending Makito, keeping our main fleet stationed here. The planet Christopher Sis holds significant value for the Galactic Republic. Launching an offensive there would also tie up Republic forces, Pascal Argent said, rubbing his hands together. I've already negotiated with the Semirs. They're willing to provide fleet support, albeit at a cost. In that case, you should take your time discussing with Tuan Tula. There's no need to involve me, Thornhill responded, still smiling. He was well aware of his membership in the secret Freemasonry Alliance and their previous meetings on Dawn Planet. According to their plan, Tuan Tula, representing the Semirians, had already set a condition for Pascal Argent. I can dispatch a fleet, but in return, I want a share of the planet Christopher Sis. Given Pascal Argent's greed, agreeing to such terms was out of the question. He viewed the planet and its potential astronomical income as solely his, unwilling to share with anyone. Since we're not discussing shares, let's talk about the price directly, Tuan Tula suggested. Accustomed to such negotiations from her time in Coruscant, she proposed a steep price, one the Enterprise Alliance could hardly afford. They had the means to pay, but doing so would severely impact their military campaigns elsewhere. This predicament led Pascal Argent to seek Thornhill's assistance. His plan? To secure a loan of 5 billion credit points from the Interstellar Banking Association. This financial aid would convince the Semirs to deploy their forces, further stretching the already overextended front lines of the Enterprise Alliance. Pascal Argent's confidence stemmed from Admiral Trench's strategy. Having swayed the Retail Industry Association and secured the Croydon's support, he aimed to facilitate the Confederation of Independent Systems' occupation of Christopher Sis, rallying more than 3 billion brave frame. The skilled inhabitants of Croydon, initiating a rebellion on the planet Christopher Sis, nearly succeeded in capturing it. This was precisely what Pascal Argent had planned. However, Tang Xiao recognized that the planet Christopher Sis was not as straightforward as it seemed. Thus, he allowed Pascal Argent to proceed with his plan, confident that the eventual failure would reveal the true complexity of the situation. Tang Xiao mused that when the Republic eventually countered with overwhelming force, Pascal Argent would understand the depth of his miscalculation. Meanwhile, as the offensive on the planet Christopher Sis was being covertly prepared, the strategic deployment of the Fourth Civilization's forces was also subtly shifting. Under the command of Lin Nanyi, Fleet B, stationed outside the planet of Chen Bingkar, coordinated with the Granite's army, readying themselves for an imminent attack. Suramar, the governor of the 19th Legion of the Republic, still reeling from a previous defeat at the Bespin planet, hesitated to launch an offensive and chose instead to fortify the defenses around the planet Karl. Unbeknownst to him, Lin Nanyi was discreetly dispatching battleships to planet Tatooine. Tang Xiao, understanding the vast resources at the Republic's disposal, refrained from direct assaults against the Republic's formidable defense lines. Instead, after regrouping the remnants of Fleet A, he dispatched a smaller contingent, led by Commander Matt Horner, to the planet Hoth. This icy world, located merely 3 seconds away from Bespin, hosted a Republic outpost and a spaceport, serving as a logistical hub for passing ships. In the future, this seemingly insignificant location would become a pivotal base for the Rebel Army's campaign against the Galactic Empire. However, at this moment, it remained a largely overlooked outpost. Commander Matt Horner executed a swift assault on Hoth, seizing control of the spaceport, demolishing the Republic's outpost, and deploying 100,000 B-1 battle droids onto the planet. The Confederation of Independent Systems, though not lacking in robotic soldiers, faced challenges in transporting these assets. The deployment of these 100,000 droids was a calculated move, with the option to request an additional 1 million robots from the High Command of the Confederation of Independent Galaxies for a nominal fee if necessary. Simultaneously, on the Bespin planets, a grand interstellar base was under construction, facilitated by 100 large RAS-class engineering ships. With this base as the operational center, Matt Horner began to methodically extend his influence to the neighboring planets. Fleets A and B strategically encircled the Republic's 19th Army, effectively trapping them in a pincer movement. In an amusing aside, the narrative cheekily encourages readers to leave positive reviews, humorously suggesting that those who rate the story highly might find themselves fortunate in love. The narrative also provides information about the updated mobile site, promising a seamless and ad-free reading experience across devices.